Okay, we started the event. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, Leanne, can you see these slides?
I can.
Okay, beautiful. Um, Welcome everyone. Hopefully this is the last time I'm bugging most of you on this call. And I hope everyone had good snow days and holidays and all of those good things and appreciate y'all jumping back in. In terms of our agenda, hopefully you have your member agenda up in front of you, so you can follow along as we go through things. Um, I'll do some quick logistics and all of that good stuff. Then we'll jump into Leanne will facilitate a conversation on foundational literacy and the appendix related to it, our new one. Um, then we'll go into our overall introduction and our strand introductions. And Karen made a very good point via email this morning about different grade band stuff, so I want to make sure we close that loop. After that, then we have appendix, anything that's needed there to get things done, and in those documents, glossary and references. The last piece I have is so folks have given great feedback about the survey, and how we can sort of get feedback on the things we need feedback on, which are primarily the things y'all make changes. So we'll take, I believe, 15 minutes at the end and just do a rapid fire, like what are, if a teacher were to walk up to you in the grocery store, what's going on with those ELA standards? Like what would you tell them? Quick bullet points. So we'll brainstorm. And shout out to Leanne who made our slide deck. She's already pulled out some stuff. Like we made big changes on aligning to the science of reading, like that high level bullet point, exactly what we need for that document. Um, any questions about the agenda or what we're doing? Just for context, I don't think we have anyone tuning in, but we might. So if so, hi. Okay. I'll keep us tracking. On your member agenda, there's a folder called Final Documents. The purpose of that final documents is that is the communication Brianna. This is what needs to go when it's all said and done. Like totally fine for all of y'all's learning documents, whatever works best for y'all. But at the end of the day, those what, one, two, three, basically four documents. If it's not on one of those four documents, it will not make it into the standards. Okay. So just a review, if it is a standards edit, whether it's foundational literacy, reading, language, whatever it has to go in that spreadsheet because I'm going to take that spreadsheet line by line and make edits to the Word doc exactly as you have it. For if it is a overall introduction, strand introduction, appendix, glossary, any of that, stuff all around the standards, it needs to be in that SDC edits to English Language Arts Standards document. Again, all of this is linked in your agenda. And I need it in track changes. One second, Leticia. I need it in track changes. And I need it with a rationale of like, we changed this to Scarborough's route because it's aligned with research and whatever y'all's answer is. Hold on one second. Let me admit whoever. Hopefully that's. Oh, there's Rachel. Great. Okay. Leticia, what was your question?
For the CDC edits 2819 English Language Arts Standards, that's the one that's the big old, there's so many things on it. Can we like change it so that it says final document somewhere on there as well? For some whatever reason, if Meredith and Tammy weren't like helping me, I was like, yo, I don't know what document we're in like 500
Mm-hmm.
times. Is there a way we could say like for all the documents that are the final ones, like just write final on them? Because I feel like I've gotten confused now. And especially when I saw the references, they
Mm-hmm.
need to be like there were some references that were located somewhere else in another folder that
Mm-hmm.
when it gets to my part, I'll be like, hey, this needs to be put in the final. But I kept getting confused. But that might be me.
Nope. All good. I can't do it right now, obviously, but I'm happy to do it at the end of this meeting. Good feedback. And thank you, Catherine. Hi, Rachel. How are you? Okay. Um, I'll keep checking. For electives, which mostly applies to my 912 group. Oh, we lost her. Okay, perfect. Let's see. Oh, she's back. Okay, Rachel, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can now. Thank you.
Okay, great. Hey, Rachel.
Hey, guys.
Um, Catherine Thank you for helping. Courtney is texting that she can't get on and she doesn't have permission. I sent her her specific link. Her phone number is in the SDC and EAT tracking spreadsheet. If you're able to find her phone number and text her,
Hey,
that'd be great.
Brianna, she just said that she could not use that link and asked, could I send her my link?
I don't think so. Everybody has their own link.
Okay,
I appreciate it though, Meredith.
you're welcome.
Will she need to go on like I did through my phone?
Potentially, yeah, Catherine, that's a good point, Tammy. Catherine, the other thing that worked for Tammy that didn't, or that worked for Tammy was just downloading the Teams app on her phone and going from there.
Yeah, I had to go through my phone too.
Okay.
That's what took me so long. So
Okay, cool. Thank you, Catherine. We'll keep tracking. For my elective friends, again, everything, and I feel like we've got this mostly sorted, but you let me know if not. All edits with their track changes just need to be in the electives document. SDC edits to ELA electives, SDC edits to Bible standards. And then the last thing on your member agenda is the major changes summary, and I'll pull that up when it's time for us to start typing. Okay, so too long didn't read. If you want it to be in the standards, it needs to be in one of the documents in the final documents folder, and I will edit all of the documents to say final somewhere. Okay, cool. And I will say I'll interpret everything as literally as I get it. So if there's a comma error, I don't want to misinterpret your meaning. So just make sure those documents are super, super clear. If there's, any sort of confusion, hopefully I will not have to bug y'all, but the clearer you are, the less I'm texting and calling you and blowing up your phone. Okay. And any edit that's on a document that's not a spreadsheet just needs a quick rationale, whatever it is, revised for clarity, cut because it was too long, whatever your reasoning is good with me. Okay. And vice chairs, just depending on your division of labor, whether it's glossary or appendix or whatever it is, just make sure that folks are giving you a rationale and feel free to jump in if we're making an edit and there's not a rationale and you need one. I don't want you to feel like you have to chase one down. Okay. Let's see. Obviously, we're live streaming. Chair meeting minutes, I'm going to track them so that y'all can get done when you need to get done. So, again, if we need to move around time, Tammy and Leanne let me know, but I'll just keep track roughly of what we're doing and how long it's taking us. Okay. For timekeeping, so far we're doing okay on time. We've got 5 more minutes of welcome, but I'll let you know, chairs, I will let you know when you're halfway done through your section, and I'll let you know when you have 5 minutes left. Because the hope is, my hope is we are not here at 7:05. Because y'all have been teaching all day. Okay. Any questions, considerations, things like that? Okay. I will stop talking. And I will pass it to Leanne to get us started on foundational literacy.
Sounds great. Thank you. It's so good to see everybody again. It's been so long since we've been together. I am going to share a little bit around the foundational literacy standards and some of the changes that we're proposing and the why behind that. Um, just to kind of give you a background for those of you who are not as familiar with primary, especially K2, why we made a pretty big change. And so I kind of want to give you the background to that before we look at exactly what we've done. But when we really looked at the survey results from the public review and the our team from the first educator advisory team, to determine our priority standards, we looked at themes and we looked at trends throughout. And one thing that kept coming up over and over again is that we're really looking at being grounded in the science of reading and in the research. And are we seeing in our standards the clarity that we need in the trajectory so that teachers know explicitly what should be expected at each grade level, so that we are ensuring that our kids are getting what they need at each grade level in that trajectory. So as we looked at those suggestions and we dug into the standards, we realized that there needed to be a lot of clarity provided for our teachers. And when we dug into the research, we realized that we were lacking some things in our standards that needed some revisions. So here, this is exactly, I think I just kind of went over this. Just we're going to really think about that. So now we're looking at that cohesion of the K-5 standards. So we're going to really look to see how can we take those foundational literacy, even though they're in all of K-5, and primarily we only hear people talk about foundational literacy standards in K-2. So we wanted to really look closely at what is that bridge in the grade bands when we look not only K to 1, 1 to 2, but what about that 2 to 3 jump and that 3 to 4 in the four and what's happening in 4th and 5th grade? And are we being specific for our teachers? And are we seeing that progression so that we know our students have that strong foundation to become the skilled readers we need them to be, especially when we're looking at Scarborough's reading rope as an icon to see how our kids come together to be those skilled readers. So when we look at that, I think we can go on to the next one. So what we really sat down and thought about is when we look at standard 3 and 4, that's our decoding and our encoding standards. And we see a lot in what we saw in the surveys, what we see in the field, what we've heard and reading the research of how a lot of times those two are reciprocal. They need to work in conjunction of each other. And we do not want our teachers to see them as separate. So instead of having them as two separate standards, we thought we're going to suggest that they go in as one standard, but they will still be side by side, showing how they work together. So we will have the decoding on one side, the encoding on the other, and we will also show how the encoding progresses at a different rate than the decoding, and that will be reflective in the trajectory of the standards. And so by looking at that, instead of it being separate, and we're looking at our standards as isolated of decoding and then isolated of encoding, our teachers will look across vertically at how their decoding standards align to their encoding standards. So we looked at the cornerstone about how could we revise the cornerstone, and we simply just put them together and connected it to say know and apply grade level phonics and word analysis skills when decoding and encoding words in isolation and in context. Previously, it was the same cornerstone. They just had decoding over here and encoding over here in two separate cornerstones. So we just combined that together so that they can really see how these two work together. And having them on one chart will really help our teachers see the importance of the encoding, decoding working in a reciprocal relationship throughout all K-5 standards. And here's an example of what that would look like. And you can see we kind of bolded the word on here to see that decode and encode, or that read and write, or that read and spell, so that it's very clear how the kids are learning that one side you're really learning how to read, and the other side you're learning how to write, but it's also very explicit in what is the skill that we're teaching, and you can see the trajectory of how those skills build and how that encoding is slightly falling a little bit below because once they learn that decoding, it's a little bit better, easier later on to learn that encoding. So we're also having a recommendation of the coding from FLPWR3, which was phonics and word recognition, and WC4, which was word composition, to simply DE, which would be decoding and encoding. So this would be a shift that would require some training and some conversations with our teachers. But everything that we read in our research and what we're seeing in all of our science of reading training and the the resources that are backed by the science all align to this reciprocal piece, and we really want our teachers to see how these work together. So we felt like this was a big change, but an important change. So we would go down to having 6 foundational literacy standards instead of 7. It would only affect our elementary because the foundational literacy standards are only for K through 5. And then I'm going to let Meredith talk a little bit about what we're going to add to help support our teachers.
I did have a comment, Leanne.
Yes.
Don't kill me.
Okay, go. Yeah, sorry,
I-
Meredith. Let me take just a minute. And you guys, is there anything, comments, questions, concerns that we need to address here before we talk about those resources? Sorry about that.
No, it's Rachel here. I'm really excited about our work that we've done here. And we just kind of put the ending part on it, since we left you guys, kind of reorganized it. While you're talking about it, I'm thinking if a teacher's, talking about using a specific standard, the way we've combined them, which I definitely agree with, I was just thinking, do we now have to have, like if I say I'm using FLDE3A for 5th grade, do I mean that I'm doing the decoding or encoding standard?
That's a great point.
So we may just put like DA and EA in those boxes. I never once thought of it until you're going back
over
it.
I didn't either. That's a great point. How are we going to use it when we're referring to what we're doing?
We may just put D on the decoding side in front of the letter and it's something.
Okay, but we need to think about that. That's true.
Okay, but that's it.
That's a great point.
As
Thank
we have
you
it
for that.
Just a quick note. Hey Courtney, just want to test your mic and your camera.
I think I'm good, but we're still very much working through issues. So.
Okay, you look beautiful. You sound beautiful. Okay, continue, friends. And the feedback is great, Rachel. Vice chairs, you're good to sort of take notes of feedback and implement it. Does that work, Meredith?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Is there anything else that anybody was thinking as we were talking? Has anybody talked to any of your teachers about any of the changes for foundational literacy? Okay.
I've shared with them the chart that we have here with the decoding, encoding, and just felt like it was a much more visually appealing way to look at them side by side. That had very positive feedback.
Good.
Yeah, well, I want to just, going back to your presentation, the only thing that I would, like, as you're going into, selling this to the next level, is to make sure that you are not, you keep saying this only affects the K-5. This affects everybody. And so
true.
I understand what you're saying, that the standard in itself is only
taking out a standard and renumbering, I guess, is where I was thinking.
Right.
But yes.
This is
huge.
Huge, yes.
I put this in the chat, but I just wanted to. I haven't talked to any elementary teachers, but I have a son in elementary, and so I'm just thinking about the third grade retention law. And when you were talking about, hey, there's a lot of clarity that needs to come with decoding and encoding, and then you were talking about it, instead of it being social, like more focused in K through 2. Now we're making sure we're transitioning it better. So like when you are presenting all of that information, just go ahead and say like this is just going to be better for our third graders. And we're hoping with the scientific research that this will alleviate some of the pressures and make it more clear for teachers, and that we can actually be helping for that third grade retention law. So I was just thinking about that when you were discussing it. I was like, oh man, I wish we had this a few years ago for my son.
You know. Thank you. That's perfect. That's great. But yes, I agree. I think the impact of getting foundational literacy right is huge for all the way up. Um, so all the way to career and college ready, really. So I agree that needs to be um, highlighted for sure. So maybe it's even though this change impacts K through 5 in standards, the impact is much greater in a positive way for all students, K-12
Amen.
and beyond.
Amen. Yes.
Okay. Anyone else on this part? And when I talk about the clarity and the real specific language, even though we are highlighting right here standards 3 and 4, the language and the specific wording and skills is all through 2 through 5, all the way up, even the fluency, because prior it would say reads appropriate grade level text, blah, 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 with fluency. We were very explicit in our language of what that means per grade level. Okay, Meredith?
Okay. So we made several possible additions to the appendix, and with the phonological awareness skills, a trajectory of skills, one of the visuals is going to provide like further explanation using a chart of different ages and at which age a student should achieve a phonological skill, and then like sample tasks that they would do for that skill. And then there'll also be a stair step visual for the phonological awareness graphics. And in the current standards, there are only phonological awareness standards for kindergarten and first. And we realized that that instruction is concentrated in K and first, but it's equally as important that it continues in second grade. So we're proposing to add a phonological awareness standard for second grade, which is also why we felt like these graphics are very beneficial. And there'll also be the same kind of stair step visual for spelling progression. And then within both of those um, areas of the appendix, it will also have an example of the task for each skill. And then for phonemic awareness, um, it's a critical prerequisite to decoding and phonics. So, to deepen the knowledge of phonemic awareness, there's going to be a pyramid graphic to show phonemic awareness skills from basic to complex. And then examples of activities for each layer in that pyramid will be available as well. And then roots, prefixes, and suffixes we felt like was needed, especially for those upper grade teachers, because in order for them to teach students how to decode and understand complex words, it would just be a helpful graphic. And we also thought of while we were thinking of different things to add to the appendix, we all have taught for quite a lot of years, but thinking about, what are some of these graphics that are needed for pre-service teachers and those teachers who are newer to the profession. So that was another thing we thought of while we were thinking of things that needed to be added. And then with the syllable types, another resource that we are proposing to add will be a graphic that shows the 6 syllable types and just all 6 of them, and talking about the definition of them and examples to be included. And then finally, an articulatory progression chart, and that is so important because for us to facilitate the critical phonemic awareness skills such as blending and segmenting, as teachers, we need to make sure that we are carefully pronouncing those sounds correctly for our students. So that chart will also be included, and we feel like it will give specific information about the place of articulation, the manner that they are articulated, and then the groups of articulation gestures. So we think that these additional resources will make that a useful tool for many years to come.
That was very helpful, Meredith. I just had one clarifying question. Are these
Okay.
proposals for the department to work on? Are these things we have drafted?
Okay,
Just want to
so
know
there
where
is
we're at.
actually they're in several different documents, but we did know that there was something mentioned of a graphics team.
We didn't
Mhm.
know what is like copyright laws. We got all the
Mm,
things.
Mhm.
So we put some examples in of what we were thinking, but we thought it might be better for the department to like finalize what we put in.
Yes, because like one of the examples that we have has a mistake. So we were under the
mm,
impression that there would be
A
graphics
graphics
help.
team or
Mhm.
a department team that for that just to ensure that we're giving that correct, and
mhm.
it's by law, it's okay for us to put this in.
Okay. All good questions. Okay. So first, yes, there's a graphics team. It's me and Catherine. You're looking at us. So everyone say hi, Catherine. Um, and we're happy to do it. What would be helpful is in that SDC edits to 2-8, that final document I mentioned, just to drop whatever sample graphics you
Okay.
have, and then put a comment like add as appendix D or F or G or Z or whatever it is, and then just tell us what you want us to change about it.
Okay.
If it's content specific stuff, I'll just need direction, like very specific directions, like something I could send to the Department of Education and say, like for example, Department of Education, do you have a syllable types chart? We couldn't find one, like,
Okay.
or we found one, but it's missing XYZ, so I can just put that request in.
Okay.
Um,
We can do
so
that.
yeah, but all of this sounds fabulous, and y'all debate the merits of it. That was just a purely logistical question.
I mean, I don't think there's a debate. Like, if our teachers need this and it's going to make it easier for them and it's going to make it more specific and very clear, like, all
Well,
for it. I loved all of this.
what what we've encountered, and I think we talked about this, is one, we have teachers who change grade levels, so they're coming down where they're not familiar with lower grades. Two, we have more teachers on waivers, teaching on a waiver, who have not been through the training and the education that other teachers have had. Like, what can we provide for them to help them be successful and help them provide what they need for the students that they're teaching?
I also love the roots, prefix, and suffix addition. I'm like really curious of what it looks like in the appendix because we cover roots, morphemes, we'll call them at the high school level. And I would like
It's
to see
in the
what the bill is.
folder.
Yeah.
It's in that final document folder, I think, or the introduction, glossary, whatever folder. But we also wanted to not stay in that K2 band.
I'm gonna check it out.
Let us know what you think.
Extensive. Leticia, it's seriously, it's like 17 pages. It has a lot.
It's that, I mean, that's great for me, like, even at the high school level. That's what I'm saying. Like, some of my students are still struggling with morphemes and, and they're
Mhm.
17 years old and we're having to break it down. And I'm like, guys, anytime you see this prefix right here, this is what it means. You should understand what this word means just by seeing the prefix there. So I'm excited.
Okay. Anybody else about the resources for foundational literacy?
I will say that we might need to clarify because I'm doing the appendix. I didn't know everything that you all were adding. So we might want to make sure that that correlates because 6.8 also had a suggestion for the roots, prefix, affix, and
Good.
a progression chart. Because it's just so vast that you're like, which ones am I teaching and which ones
Okay.
might be like to clarify for teachers so that we can build up to that. So Leticia is not getting them in high school and they still don't know. So we might want to just make sure that when we get to that point, I have all of that in the final draft, but
Okay.
also, like, if you all will double check me when I'm going over that when we get there.
Good.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Courtney's reading my mind like an angel. Yes, and just to clarify, if a grade band or an individual is proposing an appendix beyond just like a potential request to TDOE, like that person is responsible for drafting the appendix. And then,
Okay.
Courtney, if you're good with this, it would be helpful to like make sure they're organized and make sure it's A, B, C, D, but not like drafting it on behalf of anybody. Um, does that make sense? So like option A, if you really want to make sure it's in the appendix, great. Give me a draft. I'll make it pretty. I'll make it match. But like content wise, would rely on y'all because not an English teacher.
Okay.
Part two, we can make a request to the department and I will work really hard with them to hopefully get it over the finish line. And in that case, I would just add it to the end, whatever is our last letter, TUVWXYZ appendix, whatever. And Courtney, that would not be you. I can take it from there. And then Courtney, you just help me and make sure it's all there, but don't worry about drafting anything. Does that sound okay to everyone?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And yes, I did see the files. The files look gorgeous. And if it's like a weird PDF and it doesn't go in the Word document, you're welcome to just say like, put the document in the final documents folder. Tell me what it's called and say put this here, Brianna. That's cool too.
Okay. Okay. Next slide.
Okay. So the action steps I have are add revised foundational literacy standards to spreadsheet. Maybe we already did that. Totally fine. And then I have propose or add any appendices to the document I put in the chat.
Yes.
And then if it's a requested TDOE, just put it in the this what did we call it on the spreadsheet? There's that tab specifically for TDOE. And give me more details better. Because
Yep.
I'll just send them exactly what you send me.
Got it. Sounds great. Okay, so our next section is going to be Rachel and Karen. And I believe you guys worked on the introduction. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. I did the overall introduction, so I'll go over that. I mean, I put it in there. I hate to just read it to you, so I'm just going to kind of hit the, oh, look, she's got it on there. Look at that. So good. So, instead of just reading it all out loud to you all, let's kind of go over the highlights. What I did, you can read it and then, change it. Oh, that's tiny.
I'll zoom in. My computer's just slow.
That's okay. But
yeah,
just
you tell me where to scroll or go or stop, all the
Okay.
things.
Well, I was supposed to say I can't see any of that, so that's all right. Okay. So my purpose when I started writing this, I started thinking about all the things that we talked about for, the whole 2 weeks we were together. The first week when we were the EAT, and then we were the SDC, working all of that. So I pulled several of my main textbooks that I use and pulled the research from there. I wanted it focused on the because everything that we've talked about has been research. We want to see what the research says. We want to see what the research says. And we're pushing back from our foundational literacy all the way through, 12th grade out the door. We want it all based on research. So I tried to put as much research in here without it sounding overwhelming. I wanted more up-to-date research than what I found because the foundational research stopped because it was so conclusive. They were just like, we're not doing this anymore. It's out there. This is how the kids learn how to read. So that's kind of out there. So that's what I've done. I've tried to pull every band or every strand, every grade band. What is the purpose of each one? So if you scroll down just a little bit, it talks about, it's got the K5, the 6-8, the 9-12, and what each purpose. We've got our K5 is establishing the critical foundations. 6-8 is building upon those foundations and increasing the text complexity and the tasks. And then 9-12 is we're focusing refinement, sophistication, style, and then send them into whatever they're going to do in their life, whether that's college, whether that's career, whatever they choose to do outside, that they will be prepared using these standards. So questions, comments. I can read it to you if you want me to read it to you, but you also can read it because y'all are smart.
I will say I found it an easier read than what we had in the previous standards. It's so much easier to understand.
Well, I want it to be useful. That was another thing we talked about. I want it to be useful, so not just something that people look at and go, I can't do that. I want it to be easy. This is why we made the changes, or these are why, maybe not the changes, but this is why our standards are going to be what they are. So
yeah,
that's really all I have, unless y'all have a question. Rachel helped me. She gave me good feedback, and I made some changes based on her feedback. So
yeah, her first draft was great, and just a few comments that were easy to incorporate because, like you guys said, it was very concise. And so I'll just kind of build on from here because I think I have the next intro. We built from what you guys said. Let's make it short and sweet. And that was kind of my mindset behind that, but still had just like a little blurb to introduce them. So you can kind of read through there, and they were in the collaboration folder. Each section will have a little blurb, and then as you can see on the next slide for foundations, or maybe it's, I'm sorry, I just now added it in. We will still have our cornerstone. We will still have we'll have this little blurb, and then we'll have all the cornerstones before we jump into the standards page, because you guys recommended that, and I thought that was a good idea.
Yeah.
Right. I just wanted that visual. I didn't put on the rest. So also drawing on what we had said in the past for each of these sections, there's at least one reference to like Scarborough's reading rope and how it ties in each section. My only thing, and I hadn't gotten a chance to talk to Karen about this, we had kind of labeled our drafts connections to the reading rope. I think we should have it as like foundational standards introduction, only because we have that reference in each section, but there's going to be other models that come up, and this model, and I don't want to, who knows, my lunch discussion, the academic lunch discussion today was that they don't like the science of reading, they don't like the term science of reading. So like verbs are going to go, wordage is going to go. They still support what we're teaching, but I just don't want us to have something that's already thrown out in 5 years, so it's in there and it looks good, and I don't think it's going to be thrown out, but I just don't want it highlighted as much on like titles. It's embedded in there, and And so you guys can read through them. Again, we're not going to read to you. Karen did do the language section, and I kind of played around with the other sections since she'd already done the main introduction. Another thing to note is on the writing standard section. I put in reference, and I don't know what we can do copyright wise. The slide after it ties in the writing rope, since everything else rope. So just throwing that out there, but otherwise for you guys to read, and it's short and sweet. And I did not do a lot of research references in the standards introduction. Just Karen's.
Good.
Leticia has a comment. Go ahead.
Are you saying that SEDITA 2019, this writing rope right here, needs a citation?
I mean, the graphic has it, but I just don't know if we have. I don't know what.
Yeah, we will need an EPA citation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have in the art action steps. I didn't want to interrupt, but I have for Karen, add references and content to that SDC edits document for your overall. It looks like you had your APA references. Thank you. Appreciate you. And then Rachel, add your content to that SDC document and share those links. And yeah, Leticia, if you can help with references and just make sure if we're missing any or anything like that.
Do we have I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ren.
No, go ahead, Leanne.
I was going to say, do we have the graphic of the reading rope anywhere?
I thought I saw it in a folder under collaboration, but I could be wrong.
It's in there. It's in that one that's like the appendix one where it has it's its own document.
Okay.
Yeah. And in terms of copyright, good question, Rachel. I'm glad you circled back there because it came up before. I'm trying not to interrupt y'all too much and stifle discussion. But for copyright, I mean, please jump in. But my understanding is that y'all are pulling from public resources on public websites and things like that. And I would say, Catherine, please jump in, comms, Angel. But I would say that we just need to cite it APA. Now, if y'all are pulling from like a specific curriculum that your district bought or like a textbook that your district bought, or we might have to think more detailed there. But
if
would
it's
anyone
an
say
open
that
source curriculum, you could use it then, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Okay.
Does anyone have a reference in mind that's like a owned by a curriculum, private thing your district paid for, something?
The only thing that we did look at some of the letters graphics, but we could probably find the same type graphic somewhere else.
Yeah, that'd be mine.
Yeah.
If you can find it on a website and it's open source, fair game. And if you're having any trouble, I mean, I'm happy to reach out and ask her.
Yeah.
And the department might have a license. Yep, there we go.
Okay. Perfect.
We also have we added the riding rope as an appendix?
I can check. I have it open. Not to my knowledge, but I could totally be wrong. Courtney, please jump in if that's not right. But yeah, just to reiterate what Catherine said in the chat, yes, absolutely cite. If it's a private material, call me, beat me, email me.
Yeah, the standards introductions, those are Karen and I, that was our basic intellectual property, but adding in that writing rope was the one that would be needed to be cited.
When we add this to that finals document, do I just copy and paste that in there? No, I know that sounds a ridiculous question, but I don't just copy and paste it in there and there's a place for an introduction to go, or just randomly stick it in there?
Not a ridiculous question at all. So what I have is, and we do have it. I see it. Someone added it. It looks cute. We just need to cite it. Yeah. The reading rope on page 2. So let me see. Can I stop sharing? Let me share this. So just so because I don't think you're the only person with this question, Karen, and it is not a stupid question. Okay. Let me try and share this window. Okay. Okay. Well, now y'all have disappeared. That's hurtful. Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I'm just kidding. Karen, can you see the SDC edits to? Okay, gorgeous.
Yeah.
So here's what I need. let's say you chose to not move forward with this paragraph at all. It did not speak to y'all. We do not need it. I'm assuming it did. I don't think we started with a businessman and philanthropist.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So what we can do, and you can mass do this, I'm just demonstrating. We're just turning on track changes into suggestion mode. And if tech support at any point would be helpful, you let me know. I'm happy to get on Zoom with you and do all this. But I'm just suggesting to delete it. You could, and let's say we're going to get rid of all of it, which I think is maybe where we're headed. Then you would just copy and paste what you have.
Okay.
And then you would just give me a little explanation in the comment. So like, let's say,
Okay.
I'm gonna put, obviously this is ugly, but just roll with me. Okay. Then I would write, we, simplified this in teacher-friendly language to increase the likelihood it'll be read, if I'm understanding y'all's intent.
Yes.
And that would just go here, like, that way, if and when Leanne or Tammy or Nicole gets a question of like, well, why do we change everything in the introduction? Leanne can open this document and say, well, we were trying to increase readability or whatever answer you all decide to go with.
Okay.
And then I will take that very literally and just whatever you put for me. So whoever put this, very helpful. Thank you. Oh, Leanne, killing it. Amazing. This is super helpful because I know I need to go into the main document, the official one, and add this Scarborough's reading rope.
Okay, so when I copy it in there with my citations, I just leave it, I just put it down like that one big document, or does Leticia, do you need the citations somewhere else too?
So I had seen, I think it was a document that you had created where I saw your citations because I was like looking for Scarborough's rope and I was like, I know we talked about it. Where is it in the final document? And God bless Meredith and Tammy. They were like, what? Anyway, but Tammy had to be like, no, it's here. So what I'll do, since I'm in charge of the citations, which I don't mind, all the citations that you have right here that you've added from your new stuff that you guys were putting together for the intro, I will go in there and do them alphabetical order. No worries there. I'm just taking notes on the ones that we don't have citations for, so I can make sure we do have citations for them. So the Sedita, if I'm saying it right, rope, that one we need. Sedita's rope is a writing rope, and then the Scarsborough's rope, I was going to ask, did that Scarsborough's rope come from a website or did it come from the article?
That one here came from a Google image search.
I think I see a citation down here, or like a part of one.
Again. Oh yeah, it does. Does it? Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I think if we just APA this, we're good to go.
Okay. I was like, yes. Okay. So that I'm going to write that down for a note for myself too. Just make sure that I check that APA on that.
But yeah, great point.
When I put it in there, it's in there and you'll take care of it from then. I don't need to do anything else for you.
For the citations, yeah. Put them in there and I will do the rest.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, my ask would just be like, person drafting, give Leticia the content. If you have the reference, great. If you don't, just give her the content so she can make it. And then Leticia, if it's good with you, make any that we need to make and then just alphabetize what have you.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
Perfect. Okay. And then again, just because I don't think this is a stupid question, Karen, but someone tell me if so. So then what Leticia would do, this is the document for everything that is not a standard. So again, I know that these are the old standards. I'm not going to format that. Like what I'm going to do is literally go line by line on your spreadsheets and do the track changes, do all the things for you. So you don't have to do that. So don't worry about this. Like let's say, SDC and EAT changed the standard, changed every word of it. I will do that. Don't worry. And I have your rationales from the spreadsheet. So don't feel like you need to do it. This is just for all the other little weird components that we have. So for example, if we were to go down to, let's see if I can find references quickly. So yeah, this is gorgeous. We're deleting things, we're track changing them. So what's another good example? Oh, this was super helpful, Leanne, when you said like something like this to give me some direction. Again, don't expect you all to line by line change the numbers. I will change the numbers, but where's this? I'm trying to find the references quickly. I think they're okay. Yeah. So Karen, get those to Leticia and then Leticia will do the track changes.
Okay.
So let's say we're no longer using this, we goodbye, no longer need it.
Perfect.
Okay. Any question? This rule that like what I'm laying out applies to all of those SDC edits to documents. Any questions about this? These are not stupid questions. Because if you say, Brianna, delete this, I'm deleting it. It's going away. It's leaving. And if you don't, I'm leaving it. I'm taking your word for it.
Okay. I appreciate you. Okay, thank you so much. I feel much better about what I'm supposed to do now.
Okay, great.
I did have one question, kind of going back to the introductions for language. Since I'm not as familiar with those and I had Karen write those, are all the cornerstones the same 6 through 12? Or did they start for language, for the language standards? Are your cornerstones still the same? Okay. So it would still be just, we graphic, the same of just like the cornerstones.
We had talked about changing one. There was another document that I think Leanne created.
I mean, well, there might be edits on them, but I mean, they're the same cornerstone that you decided upon for 6 through 12.
Yes,
like
sixth grade and 12th grade will have the same cornerstone.
Yes.
Okay.
I misunderstood.
No, I didn't explain that well. Sorry. Okay, that makes sense. That's good.
Okay, I can go back into share mode. Rachel, is there anything else you need to present on? Is there anything else we need feedback on?
Well, just remember that there's some of those boxes at the bottom where we were putting the connections, like this is what we're doing, you know, K5 or some of it, I think it was K2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 12, or maybe 9, 10, 11, 12. It's just we need to make sure all those boxes are filled in.
Okay, so I'm adding an action step. Karen, please jump in. I'm adding it. Have you be honest with me. We need to add them. We need to revise them. What would be your recommendation?
Some of them are not even there.
Okay.
And I wasn't sure if I needed to do that, if we need to do that, but it seems more to people that are in they would need to do that.
Okay. So if I'm understanding, I'm at an action step K5, 6, 8, 9, 12 grade bands, review/revise. Sounds like there might be some of them. Review/revise. What would we call that? Strand-based grade specific sections.
Yes, I think we all know what we're talking. I think 9/12. Kudos to you. I think all of yours are done. I think. But
Gorgeous. Okay, so for this section, I have Karen's going to share her references with Leticia and just drop that content in like we talked about. Rachel, I have the same thing for you, just for your specific stuff. Is that right? Am I missing anything? Okay. I was just making a running list of action steps at the bottom of our agenda, but y'all jump in if I'm missing stuff. Okay. Let's go. Okay. We're doing great on time. Is there anything we want to talk about before moving to an appendix? Okay. Also, hi, Everly.
Sorry about that. Her daddy's coming to get her in just a second.
Oh no, I am so honored that she's joining us.
Yes.
I could not be happier. She's
I mean, I saw her snow pictures and she was a doll. Yes, girl, get it.
She's something else. You want to say
yeah,
hi?
I'd actually
Hi, wave.
Hi, Everly.
She's waving from the bottom. Can you wave up here? Wave up here.
So yeah, I'd actually like Daddy to not come get her, but I understand if she has other things to do.
I stuck my head in and said, finish your shower. I'm next. We gotta go. Come here. All right, thanks for the understanding. Okay, if you want to go on to the next one, who's controlling the slides? Yeah, okay, perfect. So what I try to do here is put in what we currently have listed as the new appendix titles. So the next few slides are going to go through each one of those. I know E, that's my K5 people, if you want to like double check, that's what I had written down as of last time we were in Nashville, but we may want to look at assessing that. And then F, I also had that as the 6-8, but if that's something that we're doing K5 as well, we might want to adjust that as well. So we'll look at that. But if you want to go through the next ones. So what I did here is some of this we left the same. The first one talks about text complexity framework. We felt like that was still important. And so this was a very long part of the appendix. So the first 2 pages, 105, 106, essentially just left it as is. It explains the qualitative and quantitative analysis. It includes the Lexile framework, and it's very like foundational for everything. So we left those 2. On page 107, which was the 3rd page of that, the qualitative analysis of literary text. All we did to that, I think Leticia and I were working on that one while we were there. We just edited the terms to match the new standards. So for example, we left it perspective instead of point of view. I think there might have only been like 2 or 3 places that we made any edits. And then on page 108, 109, it was left as is as well. That went along with page 107, but 107 was the only one that we actually had to change things for because it was literary, where page 108 and 109 was informational text. And then the last portion, which you'll see was several pages from page 110 to 118, we removed all of that template. What that was essentially a worksheet. It provided a blank worksheet where you would determine the text complexity. But because of HQIM, because of the fact that most of us are working through a curriculum, didn't necessarily feel like that process was super helpful. So we removed the template that was blank, but then we also removed the ones that were completed for literary and informational text. We just felt like that whole section just was overwhelming and unnecessary. So as far as the first for A for the appendix, that's kind of the changes with where we were at. I know that's kind of difficult if you don't have it right in front of you, but if you pull up the one that's in the shared folder, you can actually see our edits and changes. Any questions on that? Okay, on to B. I apologize if you can hear Mickey Mouse Clubhouse in the background.
No judgment here. We're good.
Okay.
Makes me happy.
All right.
I just have a quick question, Courtney, just so I can get everything down. So if I'm understanding you right, no action steps here. These are all good to go, right?
Yeah.
Those are in there.
Okay.
There shouldn't be anything that needs to be done. And for your purposes, Brianna, it might be helpful to know that anything that's in italics, so for example, this one, if you see that this one is in italics, also in the speaker notes on those slides, I put what needed to be done and who might need to do it.
Gorgeous. Thank you.
So for this second one, language and conventions progression chart, there's been one out there. There's been one that says, hey, let's randomly teach this here, and this is taught here through here. So what we suggested as a task for the next group is to update the current chart to reflect what the new standards say. So any of our standards that we may have changed, added different things, to make sure that those are where they need to be as far as when they're introduced and when they're really highlighted. But then some of the standards, the way that it was currently looked like this picture, but without the arrows. It looked like you taught nouns in K1, 2, 3, and then you never touched it ever again. But we know that that's a common practice. That's going to be something you should continue your knowledge of. And it'll say you stop commas here. Or so one thing that we suggested is, especially for newcomers, especially for work embedded new teachers, that it might be helpful to add that continuation. And so we put this picture there to help them understand that, like, yes, this is where it's specifically listed, but that doesn't mean it's the only time that you teach it. You should be teaching the progression of this all the way through. So that's essentially the change that was on B, is just making those edits. Are we good? Any questions? Okay. Go on to C then. So the current C and D were guidance for specific reading standards. Appendix C was reading standard 5, Appendix D was reading standard 6. But we felt like with the recent development of the standards guides, if we could request that those be made for these new standards as well, and instead of having an explanation for 2 of those standards, let's have a link, whether it's a hyperlink or they're actually listed or however they decide to formulate that. We would like that to be the Appendix C, and that would replace the current C and D. And I guess that would probably be a little TDOE work as well, which I didn't mention on the slide, but I can change that if I need to.
You're good. I'm taking notes. And again, you'll debate the content piece of it. I'm happy to do that. Somebody jump in. I believe they're still working on. My only thing is I do know the standards guides take a while to be in effect. So I do think there would be a gap potentially. Like for example, K2, they're working on one, right? And it hasn't been released yet, or it was recently released. So just a potential trade-off to weigh. But again, totally
Well, and
up to y'all.
also with these standards coming, like the standards guides are new idea anyways, right? So hopefully if they know that the new ones are coming, maybe that can be something that they're proactive about, like that can be a request from us, to where now they're working on the standards that are passed. But by the time that these are implemented, hopefully that's something they can have. Or at least it would be nice. We would like it, things. And then for
I'll
D,
definitely make the ask.
oh yeah, I mean if we can, we just feel like there's a lot of resources floating out there, and so we tried to make the appendix more cohesive, where instead of like looking for, oh, here's these standard guides, I didn't even know that they were there. They're embedded in the standards. That just seemed like a logical place to put things.
Totally. Yeah, what I can do is, so we'll pass obviously the standards with our chairs. We'll present to the state board and it'll be on first and final. So I'll probably just put again, please jump in with feedback. What I'm thinking is put a placeholder for when those standards are passed, and then we would need to go back and update it once we have it. Does that make sense? So just if you're looking at it, it would probably just say like TBD standards guides.
Yeah.
And then as I get them, I'll add them. Okay. Cool.
All right, moving on to D. Maybe. Yeah. Okay. All right. This one is one where we might need to go back to our conversation about graphics, because there were big sections for implementation resources that we didn't feel like were necessary. So one of the conversations was to replace those with graphics that could be utilized statewide that represent implementation resources that we're already using. So when these standards came out, maybe they were new, PLCs and intervention and things like that, they were newer, but everybody's familiar with that now. So maybe instead, on the very first bullet point, we changed addition of rigor to universal design. I know there's a lot of people who are sick of hearing rigor, but that doesn't mean we got rid of it, but we just changed that a little bit. And then adding a graphic for universal design to demonstrate the rigor. Instead of having a big section on intervention that just gives us a blurb of what it is, put a graphic of our RTI programs and tiers. And then instead of questions for PLCs, develop a PLC graphic offering a tie-in to the standards and why PLCs are important. So that was kind of the thoughts, but this one definitely needs some work before we get it finalized. Any thoughts on that?
Like, do you think we could look up some PLC research and see if they have any graphics that we can look up and like insert that? Is that something that you would want us to do in there for the graphic, or are they supposed to create a graphic?
I think the thought process was to create a graphic. And there may be one that already exists within the TDOE world for PLCs, for RTI. I'm not 100% sure, but our discussion was mainly like, hey, this is like PLCs are important, RTI is important, understanding it is important, but these big long paragraphs about them are not incredibly helpful.
Right, gotcha.
Yeah.
I was like, my dissertation was over vocabulary comprehension and PLCs, so that's why I had the rope already. I already had the rope. I
Mhm.
might have, I might have a PLC. If you want me to look, I can look for that one. You can put it on my
Yeah,
to-do
we'll
list.
take what you got.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure, like if I just go look at my stuff, I'll find one that it could just be in there as possible example for, a PLC.
Hmm.
Okay. I was like, unless somebody else wants to look for it, I'm almost positive I have one, but
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I appreciate you, Leticia. Because, yeah, again, I don't want this to all fall on Courtney. I would just say, like, okay, couple pathways. If you have a graphic and it's ready to go and you might just have a couple edits, like, please stop me, Courtney, but it sounds like some of the bullet, like, maybe that first bullet point is just like changing the title. Is that accurate or no?
Hmm.
Okay, great. Stuff like that. You just do that track change and you say, Brianna, change it, and I can go do that.
Yeah, and we did that.
Okay,
We
gorgeous.
did all the track changes that are already there.
Okay, gorgeous. And then if you have something that you want to replace it, like what Leticia is mentioning, yeah, go ahead and throw what you have. And if Leticia is like, do XYZ to this, great, awesome. If we don't have anything for it and we don't have anybody that, knows something, et cetera, then I'll just add it to the TDOE list and I'll hope that they have something. And if not, one thing that I'll need to know is say this. I'm assuming we still want to get rid of some of the stuff you mentioned, Courtney. So I would still delete what it is and just say like put on spreadsheet request to TDOE, I don't know, RTI something something. I do know that if I remember correctly, Kim emailed you all the RTI manual. So I don't know if there was anything in there we wanted to use. But yeah, I would just say if you have something and or revisions to it, I can make it happen. If it's on the request list, I'll do my best. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And if not, if you delete it on the document, I'll just assume that it's a deletion if we can't make it happen.
Okay. All right. Other than that, the other ones I think we just need input from everybody cohesively because they're all on one slide. So for E, we just need some feedback from our foundational literacy. Is that exactly what we want? Where do you have that located so that we can insert it? Because we don't have it inserted as of right now. Where I put explain updates to the FL standards, that's the only thing that I have currently listed in the track changes. Same for 6 through 8. We had requested that progression chart as a tie-in with the language standard 3 for each grade level, building up on the foundational literacy concepts. And we requested direction from TDOE if possible. And then the very last one was just incorporating the writing rubrics into the standards, because again, that's one of those pieces that is another piece floating around, but why not put it right there with the writing standards that are there? Have the rubrics as an easy access within your standards. Other than that, that's it. So just E and F are the ones that we really need to look at.
So just again, y'all please jump in on, I'm just thinking logistics to get this over the finish line, quit bugging y'all, but jump in with the ELA expertise. So E, is that what Meredith proposed at the beginning? And that's what we're closing the loop on?
Yes, it is. And if you go to the SDC folder, there's a folder within it, and it's intro, glossary, references, and appendix track, and all those things are in there.
Okay, gorgeous. So then we just need to get it to SDC edits. Or just make a note of where everything is. Okay, cool. And then, so for the 681, 68, we're just putting a request in for it, and if we get it, great, and if not, not. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yes,
Okay.
essentially.
Okay. And then writing rubrics, would that be another placeholder one? Because they'll develop the rubrics as a result of the standards, right? So those
Yes.
that'd be like the standards guys. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Is that all for you, Courtney?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Brianna, are you ready for us to move on?
Yeah, I think we have Meredith.
Okay, Meredith, you're next. She's got the
Okay.
glossary.
The update for the standards glossary, we can move to the next slide. The rationale was, we saw that statement at the very beginning of the glossary that all the terms that are embedded within the glossary should be what are within those ELA content standards. So in that reference, there was a lot of work that we had to do to the glossary. So we can go to the next slide. And even though I am an ELA person, I thought this was pretty interesting. It shows like how many words that we were proposing to add, how many that we wanted to modify, how many words, like we've left 95 words as is, and then 63 words that we are proposing to remove. So just found that interesting. And that was as of our in-person SDC meeting. But then the next slide, there are some words that we need to go back and review, just because of some things that have been noted. For instance, the very first one is active voice. And so what I did was each one of these glossary terms, like the top is what the action was at the like what our decision was when we were final with the SDC meeting, the in-person meeting, and then below it is maybe what we should consider. Because for instance, with active voice, the voice definition states in grammar the quality of a verb that indicates whether its subject acts, see active voice, or is acted upon, see passive voice. So for us to leave the voice definition there, then if we are removing active voice and passive voice, then it's not there for them to go back to. So we need to consider reinstating that definition. And feel free to please jump in because a lot of these words we're having to go back and look at are like the 9 through 12 words. I think there may be 2 that are K through 5, and they may be some may be even 6 through 8, but not many are K through 5. So please add in your feedback and also we can make a decision on these words. Is everybody okay with thinking of like reinstating active voice?
I think we either have to reinstate it or we have to rewrite voice or get rid of voice.
I agree.
I personally would rather have too many words than not enough words.
That's a great point.
Like if somebody's wondering, I'd rather be able to find it than
Right. I don't want the teachers guessing. If they're guessing, then we're doing it wrong. So you're right.
What about allegory? We had proposed to remove it.
I do know we use it particularly in 11 and 12.
Okay.
So obviously high school's biased because we're like, we sure do love that allegory. But
That's why I hate to say anything.
No, please,
it
that's
does.
I would like for
think-
you to
I think anything that brings clarity
Mhm.
and is common language that can be consistent across grades, schools, districts, whatever,
Mhm.
is I would rather add more than not,
Okay.
than to have teachers determining their own.
Yes.
Like I really want this to be a resource that you are constantly going back to and using, and it's not just on their shelves. Like, let's go back, like, let's use this in planning. This is just a planning tool they're using.
I would love for it to look well loved and not just
Yes,
Mhm. Because it has the potential of being a great tool.
it does.
What about central idea and what we had left it to be modified and we had modified it, but then it still was and it is my fault. It was still left in there, or even a theme across multiple works, and we were trying to take that out. So is everyone okay with removing that?
I think later on in the glossary where it said main idea, underneath main idea, when we had that definition, it was like, see, central idea or something like that, or like, very similar to central idea. So then I was like, oh, well, we better take out theme because later on in main idea, we said it was
That's
synonymous or
true.
something like that.
Okay, if everybody's okay with those three considerations, then we'll move on to the next slide. That's the words claim, compound sentence, and critical summary. Tammy, Leticia, do you all want to talk to those three words as to why we are needing to consider a change?
For claim. So, claim had the to state or assert that something is true, and in the standards it can be used synonymously with thesis. I think in there just to add about essay writing that it was supposed to, like when we teach essay writing, I know we're talking about like if the students make a claim that it needs to provide direction for the entire essay and then be supported by evidence. But I was kind of very specific about that just because I wanted to put it where it normally is in essay writing. Now, we don't, I mean, like, if you guys don't agree with that, tell me what, we can take out the part about essay writing, but I know that it's normally like, whenever I tell the students about claim, I'm focused on it needs to have some supporting evidence and it's the direction of the written piece.
Mm.
So you guys tell me what you think. Essentially, I was trying to make it more explicit, I guess. More explicit.
I feel like that you can't go wrong with making something more easily understood. So what about compound sentence? It was something about high school level.
Yes.
Sorry,
You
there we
can
are
also,
again.
I know, worst problems. I think the way it reads, it's almost like the only way to do it is by joined by a conjunction, and we need to add the or a semicolon or a colon. I think that's what you were talking about, right, Leticia?
Yeah. At the high school level, we're using semicolons. We're also using colons when we're talking about writing compound sentences. So the way that it was written made it sound like I was thinking like if I'm a brand new teacher and this is my first time teaching ninth grade English, and I only taught the kids, hey, put this comma here in a conjunction, that
That's
wouldn't
only a
be.
third.
Yeah, I was like, so that wouldn't be accurate. So I was like, at the high school level, we're definitely working with semicolons and colons quite a bit. So then I was like, I think our definition needs to change to reflect that, um, just to keep it again more precise.
And the next one, the critical summary, it was really needing to add supporting details after main idea. I think that's a great add there, a great addition.
Yeah, it just kind of aligns to the standards and cornerstones a little bit more precisely.
Okay. And that certainly is helpful. Okay, we'll move to the next slide, please. Okay, dependent clause, etymology, and then fallacious meaning.
Yes. I'm reading the notes real quick.
You're fine. I hope I made the print large enough.
Oh, it is.
That was the max I could go to.
Yeah. And a lot of times your dependent clause actually starts with a subordinating conjunction. It's not just joined with a conjunction. That's the first word in it. It's part of the clause. Um, And sometimes it's just easy to say a dependent clause can't stand by itself. It can't be a sentence. It's not a complete thought. So that's why we suggested this clause cannot stand alone or convey a complete thought.
Everybody's in agreement. We'll just move along.
I think with etymology, it was just a copy issue.
Yes.
I really do think it was just a copy issue.
Okay.
It should have read,
And
as
I think that actually was how it was written in the original. That actually was an original definition.
right from like however many years ago. So yeah, it's
we
just
will make it a complete definition.
okay.
And then
Let's see. What did we say?
oh, you wanted to add a statement to the beginning of that definition.
Yes, fallacious means to base a claim on a mistaken belief, and we can't just look at the fallacies we've always taught. We now have to teach students how to interpret what's being said to them that may just be a lie. It may just be misleading. It may not actually fall under one of our set categories. So my suggestion was it means to base a claim on a mistaken belief, and then add everything else about the fallacies.
Okay. We'll move to the next one. Promise we only have 2 more slides. Independent clause.
Sorry we caused so much trouble. um,
I think it was like trying to match how or actually not match, but like mirror how if we improve the dependent clause and it says it does not convey
Yes.
a complete thought, then in the independent clause wanted to mirror that it does in fact convey a complete thought. I think that's why that was added there, just to mirror the dependent clause. Like this is the opposite of this one, just to show a clear opposition, not a mirror. Excuse me.
And then inference, I think it was that it just felt like it was just like referring to word meaning.
right, and not what
Yeah.
the other underlying things you can pick up from the story.
Yeah.
Yes.
And since it's like RKid 1, it's like the basis of the basis of reading comprehension.
Yes.
You must make inferences. We were like, this
Very
probably needs to be
important.
changed because a prediction of what's going to happen next is an inference. Indirect characterization, that's an inference. So like all of these things, we were like, okay, it needs to probably change to say something like the process of using evidence from the text and one's perceptions to come to a conclusion about information which is not explicitly stated. Um, and then the bottom part was just the explanation, but the top of that was to provide more explicit direction for a teacher, again, who might be new or learning or all of that. You need to know that inference is more than just the meaning of words. Does
And
that
then
encompass that correctly?
I think that's a great change. The final one, irony situational, it's because we're still leaving irony dramatic and irony verbal, so it just kind of seems like why would we leave it out?
Right. Well, it's also tested sometimes, and
Mhm.
it's situational irony is one of the 3 that we are supposed to teach and address in
Yeah.
high school.
Okay, we'll go to the next slide. Okay, metaphor extended.
We just wanted to put it back in
Okay,
because most of our poems that we cover in the high school level are all extended metaphors. So we were like, can we put this back in, please?
and the middle word, passive voice. If we're going to reinstate active voice, we certainly need to do that for passive voice as well. Point of view.
This is more just a suggestion and a question that I had. Should we replace the word determines with focuses on or identifies? And where we say there are 3 types of point of view, do we need to define what they are?
And that's a word that goes K through 12.
Yes. Until
Yeah.
I didn't know if we say there's 3, and maybe we did mention them somewhere, but I couldn't find it explicitly. So do
Okay.
we need to mention the 3?
Yes. Also, where it says to provide a clear distinction between a story's point of view and author's perspective, we got to take out where it says author's perspective, right? Because didn't we separate those clearly so that we could make one, like
I
in
thought
this
so,
case, it would be the narrator's perspective. Does that make sense?
and not authors.
Right. So we need to be clear
So
about
we
that
need
because
to
that
change
was,
author to narrator.
yes,
Uh-huh.
yes,
Okay.
because that was some of the feedback we got. It was like, which one is it? What are we teaching? So point of view needs to be completely separate from author's perspective to help with clarity so we don't mix those things up anymore.
What does everybody feel about should the 3 types be defined, since that's something that affects everyone?
Are we talking about adding a new words or just incorporating it in here?
Either one, even if it's just a delineation in the definition, do we need to do that, or do we just assume that people know what we're talking about?
Can we put it in parentheses like first, second, third, or be specific like omniscient, or what do you mean? Like, could we do that?
That's what I was wondering. I think a parentheses with, I don't know,
Okay.
then you've got people who don't, if they don't know what they all mean, you're pulling a lot. That's why I was wondering, did we just say we're talking about first, second, third, we're talking about third person
Omniscient,
omniscient? Yeah.
limited, objective.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If we put them in parentheses and we put them in parentheses, hopefully when they go to pull up lessons or they want to teach it, they're going to, search for the specific points of view if we put them in parentheses.
I
Is
think
that
that's a great idea. And
like,
then I don't know that they necessarily have to be clearly defined, but that they're listed.
okay?
I think
That
that
would be
will be
good. Yeah.
helpful.
Okay.
Okay,
Just to give them some kind of direction if they don't have it.
that's a great idea. Okay, bring in a last slide. Okay, we have publish.
With publish, it just says to finalize a process, and it's probably nitpicky, but should we actually make it say something more like prepare and issue a document or assignment for publication or readership? Just to finalize it, they could finalize a blank piece of paper.
That's true. It is.
You
It
are
is not
thinking like
descriptive.
every high schooler because they're like, I published it. No, you
Yep,
didn't.
I turned it in.
That's funny. I
So
think
that was
that's
just
a
my
great.
suggestion.
That sounds much more specific. All right, and then our last two are recall and retail. And those are, I'm sure, at multiple grade levels, but especially K2. Recall, I questioned did it need to be in there because I caught myself going through the standards and I don't find it. So, Rachel and Leanne, do you remember it in there?
I know it was in before. I don't remember us. I don't know the conversation to remove it. Um, but I do remember the conversation about recall being with the informational standard and retell being with the fiction.
That's what my note is. On retail.
Because we had in the original, that's what it was. In the original standards, they had retail in both. And we said for informational, we did not need retail. We needed
And I feel,
recall.
to me, recall to me, recall is like a process. Like, I think of the difference being between recount and retell, and we have a definition for recount. We rewrote it.
I like that better. I mean, I'm not foundational literacy, sorry,
Mhm.
but I feel like that's more specific to say recount, and it's going towards, um, it's not going through, it's nonfiction
Let's
text,
see.
right?
Well, I think recount, you're giving more details
Okay.
in your
Well, and it,
retelling of a story. Like a first grader is going to retell a story by giving you like a beginning, a middle, and end, but they may not give you some key details in there. Whereas a second grader should be able to recount by giving some very clear key details that happened that were important to the story.
I like that, especially since it does directly correlate to the standards as well, like
And
just
it
the
shows the
key
progression
details.
from first
Got
to
it.
second grade.
so
Whereas the recall helped make the distinguishment between fiction and literature.
I question that definition for retail. I feel like it has things in there that aren't
Yeah, I don't
like,
necessarily.
because to me, recount is what helps you get to a summary, because you're doing, like, it is essential for the recount to be in chronological order, where retail may not be.
Mm.
I just feel like that definition for retail is like way beyond what retail would look like for kindergarten and first graders.
So what are you wanting to?
Maybe reword the definition.
Yeah, for definitely for retail. And then I just feel like recall is more like a, I don't know,
But we're
the
saying that the
specific.
proposed definition for retail aligns with RI, but I don't see retelling as aligning to RI.
Well, as it is written where we left at the SDC.
So we're saying change it to recall.
I think retail should be with literature, which would align with RLKID too. I don't think informational text should be there with retail.
No, I don't either.
And I feel like retail, so I just made notes. I said it implies students tell a story again, that it's informal, and it's like an oral recall of story elements, including characters, setting, and events.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sounds good. You kind of asked us about this before we got to come back together to discuss. And I mean, you're in second grade, you're right where all that kind of meets. So we trust your judgment, and
Mm-hmm.
you use that every day, and you've used the way it was passed in the language, and
Mhm.
this, where
I
it gets
just was concerned. Okay, well, if you all are okay, I felt like it wasn't the correct definition.
yeah,
So
good point. I
I
think
will
Yeah.
help
work
clear.
on I'll work on that.
You have the knowledge and expertise there.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
So you're good?
I'm good. The next steps would be I'll go through and make these changes in the glossary. And
Okay.
is that one rationale okay, Brianna, for our changes in the glossary? I put a rationale at the very beginning, and that's what I put on the glossary. Just, talking about those words needed to be words that are found in the standards.
Gorgeous. Loved it.
Okay. All
And
right.
thank you for reminding us of our action steps. And I will say, Meredith, if there's any, again, don't want y'all to feel totally responsible for all like intellectual decision making on the glossary. If there's specific people, I thought you did a great job, by the way, just now, like tapping different people and their expertise. But if you need any support, like I don't want you to feel like you're doing the glossary on your own. So feel free to loop me in or whoever you need for whichever words to get those finalized. And that applies for all my vice chairs, of course. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is the references. Leticia.
No. Okay. Um, the references, you know what I did is I put like a slide probably at the very end. I'm so sorry. Um, and I just kind of mentioned a few things that I saw that I was like, okay, we probably need to work with this. So I could either try
Is
and
it, you tell me when to stop, Leticia.
keep going.
Glossary?
And some
Appendix?
more, and some more. There.
There we go.
Citation notes. Sorry. I call them citation notes. I apologize.
That's okay.
Our final document citation page needs to be updated, which we were talking about this when we were going through it. So this is again, I keep praising Tammy because I'm like, I don't see it in the final document. And she's like, go over here. Okay, so basically, the new citations, which I know Karen said she was going to send, put them in there for me. I can organize them. Um, the one thing we do need to look at, because I made sure I noted it, are of course like anywhere that you might have added new things that I still haven't seen. I definitely need those so that I can put the citations in there. The Bible standards that we did for our electives, we totally reworked those, and we had used, oh my gosh, I can't remember which state we had modeled our Bible standards from. So I guess my question is, we need to probably cite that state's Bible standards, but then also note that we adapted them.
Mm-hmm.
So then I was gonna suggest that because that would be the biggest portion that I know we need. And then in the Bible standards again, when we did the introduction for our Bible standards, like the course description information, we literally cited Tennessee's new law and we quoted it. How do I cite a law? I guess what's my next question? How do I cite this law so I can put it in the reference page for the works cited page? Um, and then citation removal. So I was trying to do this by hand and then I kind of cried a little bit. Does anybody have a software that we can use where it'll cross-check citations? Because I know we pulled a lot of stuff out of the introductions and then we started a new introduction or we tweaked an introduction. So I could do it by myself and see what we tweaked and double check, but that'll take a long time. Does anybody have a software that could do it easily?
I don't know of one.
Okay, I can't wait to wait for hours.
AI does do it pretty well. I don't have a paid AI subscription, so I don't know.
Which one does it pretty well?
Some of the paid AIs, like if you have the
Okay.
subscription, not just like the free dial-up internet as they call it. If you have a
Mhm.
free chat GPT, it's kind of like dial-up internet compared to the paid ones. um, Magic School AI is pretty robust. Take this article and do
Okay.
the citations for me. see
Okay.
if i see if I, you have to kind of play around with it, see if I'm missing any citations. You
Okay.
can find those pretty quick. But Magic School AI is free and it's pretty comprehensive for educators. So
Okay. I can
Yeah.
I can look into that one. So that's probably what I'll do. I just like put a note down for myself to um
One flag. Wait, so can you just summarize for me, Leticia? You're trying to figure out like citations on different documents and
no, I want
what's the
everybody to
goal?
the goal is whatever our finalized because our citations are in separate locations.
Right.
When our citations make it to the final document and when our new language intros, the new each of the new standard intros and the whole introduction when it makes it into the final document, I can run it through hopefully Magic School AI to see how I can update the reference page because I'm willing to bet some of the references at the very end that we have in our final document are no longer being used. Like we probably brought in newer research.
Got it, got it, got it. Okay.
So I need to remove those. But to do it by hand is pretty painstaking. 'Cause there's a lot, that's what I was doing over the weekend, and then I was like, oh my God, this is gonna take forever. I probably could use a software and this would make it easier. Um,
I got you. We do need to be careful about AI. If there's a specific one you need to use, let me know and I can check it against the state database of the options. So, like, for example, we can use Grammarly because Grammarly has AI components. My thought is, and tell me if I'm just like totally like overly dumbing this down. I used to do a lot of report writing in my previous job, and I would just control F for that. So, okay, let's say Courtney Gray is a research author that we are using in our references. I would just control F for Gray in the in-text citations, and if it only showed up with one instance in the references, then I would know I could delete it. Am I oversimplifying things?
So then for like the 20, 30, 40 references, I'm just doing that for all of them.
Yeah. Which I recognize, in terms of the AI
I'm just
thing,
like,
we
I'm
just have to
just
be
like,
careful about which ones are allowed. So if there's,
okay,
I
I
can
was like,
look up magic.
I was like, the workload is, my
Mhm.
after this meeting workload will be hefty. If if I have to go through about 40 or 50 of them, yeah.
What was it called, Rachel, again? I can check. There's basically just like a list of ones we're allowed to use or not allowed to use.
Magic School AI.
Yeah, okay. If not, I can pull any of, if it's not there, Leticia, I can pull the policy where they have all the options in case any of those are helpful. But I can't promise, like, that's for all of state government, so it could be like random, like architecture. I have no idea. But I do
Okay.
know Grammarly's on there, and I'm happy to support if I can. But what was I gonna say? Oh, Bible. I can put the ones in the chat that I printed for y'all. I don't know which one you modeled it significantly off of, but I did keep copies of everything I printed for y'all. Um, to jog your memory.
And I'll have to
Yeah,
go
and
back and
once I
look.
see it, I was like, once I see it, I'll know which one it is because it was structured. We kind of structured ours similarly to it. We even like had our charts displayed kind of similarly to theirs.
Okay. That's a good flag. And then for the law question, open to folks' thoughts. I haven't done it in a hot minute again. In my previous life, I did a lot of report writing, but and managing, but I think APA has a specific one for state laws. I can double check.
All right, let me look that up because I certainly have not, in all of my APA-ness, I don't ever cite laws. So here I am writing down APA citation for laws specifically. I'll look that up. Purdue, here we come. Purdue Al, let's go. Aside from that, really for the references, I think we've kind of hit most of the things we were supposed to do earlier just because we had some really great questions. And I've been writing down the notes that I'm very specific at. You guys tell me if you see anything else in the references or if you think of anything else in the references that I needed to legitimately cover. Tammy is a lot more thorough than I am, which I appreciate. So most of the time, Tammy's like, "What about this? What about that?" And I'm like, "I didn't even think about that." So, if there were any slides that Tammy had covered that she might have found that I have missed, um, I was just gonna ask.
Okay. Was it Arkansas?
I did pull Arkansas for y'all, so that would make sense. I'm looking for the folder right now. Let's see. Oh, Bible standards examples. Here we go. I know there were 3 of them. I pulled. Of course, their document titles do not have their states in them. It might take a second to pull up since I'm sharing the screen and making my computer angry. But I will. How about this? I will download all 3 of them and put them in the STC drive, so you can look at them.
All right, sounds good.
Start with Arkansas. I may be wrong, but that one looks the closest.
Okay. I mean, we modeled it pretty much like whatever they had because the other ones, I remember there were other ones that we went through that were just off, and then one state particularly, we're like, "Yep, this is what we're looking for. They understand what we want." And then we just checked the old standards and tried to make sure they aligned. And then we might have tweaked the language in several of them, and then we added our own specifically. But we do need to give,
Yeah.
if you said Arkansas, we do need to give Arkansas their credit for our
And I may be
adaptation.
wrong, but that one looks the closest.
Okay. Okay, so I am in the SDC folder, Brianna. Where did you put it when we're in that folder?
My
The
computer is feeling its feelings, so
Oh,
I
oh, just
I will
kidding.
add it as an
Sorry.
action step to add it to the folders, and I can
Okay.
send it to you all once it's there.
Okay,
Okay.
cool.
Yeah, I'm even trying to like copy and paste stuff, and it's not happy. Hold on, let me just
Yeah,
stop
no
sharing
worries.
for a hot second. Okay. Okay. Anything else on references other than those pieces?
Not that I saw, and we had covered the other ones that I had questions about, so.
Okay. Cool. And then I saw there were other slides. Was looks like where were they? Okay, I see some slides under major standard summary.
Yes, I wanted to give us a place to start since my name was beside that one to give us
Okay,
something
cool.
to think about. So we didn't have to start from scratch.
Love it. Okay, should I start sharing?
You can.
Okay, cool. And I can pull up that document and help take notes. Let me see.
Okay.
Let's see.
And with these guys, by no means is this anything other than a starting point. Um, but at least I thought we have something to delete and add to and all that.
Okay, so yeah, just a frame for conversation.
Right.
So, and I think we might, Courtney may have missed this, and maybe Rachel may have missed this. So, ultimately, as y'all have heard, our chairs will go before the state board and will go before the SRC, and it'll be like, what are the major changes we made? And of course, we're not going to mention like, oh, we changed this comma and we did this and we did that, right? Leanne and Nicole and Tammy will need to speak at a high level of like, what are the big shifts for them to be aware of? Um, and then also we have our survey, right? And of course, it's important that the survey has an opportunity for Tennesseans to comment on individual standards that they're passionate about. But we also want to give them a lay of the land because if we just show them the new standards, then they'll be like, okay, great. What did you do? So for our last little bit of time, I have a document. Again, open your member agenda and I can put this in the chat, but hoping to just capture before, because Leanne and Tammy and Nicole won't give this presentation until what? They'll give the presentation in June of 2025 and November in 2025. Oh, people have added stuff. We're doing great. Amazing. So yeah, just hoping to get this document and then we'll share it with the public. And then the hope is that they can use this for their presentations this summer and this fall. Any questions about?
So I know a lot of this is just stuff I copied over to that document. So again, we can work from either place.
Okay, perfect. Let's maybe do document.
Okay.
Let me change sharing. So, and I think like what Leanne mentioned at the top of like, we align to the science of reading. What else should you say? You were smoothing out the progression to, this, that, and the other. Those kinds of things are super helpful to explain to people. Because I even had somebody the other day message me and be like, oh, what are we doing in foundational literacy? It's like, well, what are we doing?
Stuff. We're doing stuff.
Exactly. Okay. There you go, Tammy. Take it away.
Okay, so I started out with foundational literacy, standard 3, and fix me if I'm wrong, has been arranged into a 2-column presentation that shows the interrelatability of what was formerly 3 and 4, focusing on decoding and encoding. Clean that up any way you need to. Anything we
Hey,
need to
five.
do?
So I can help us back up. So just I added, or there's a section called organization structure. If
Mhm.
someone were to ask Leanne, what did y'all do to the organization and the structure of the standards at a high level? What could we tell them? I think if I remember correctly, we eliminated some strands, right?
We
We may have
did.
added some
We
new strands.
eliminated and combined 3
Okay.
and 4. We provided clarity and cohesion across the grade levels to ensure that teachers were clear of the specific skills that needed to be taught within their grade level, and that we were building and not having any gaps, to ensure that the foundation was solid. We also consulted, I guess you could say, with the research and best practices of the science of reading and the brain research to ensure that we are aligned to with those practices all through elementary K-5,
Mm-hmm.
through all standards, foundational standards 1 through 5. Well, 1 through 4 now.
Can you say that last part one more time?
Now we're aligned through not just through our grade levels, but through the standards 1 through 4.
Explain
Because
it to me
6
like
and
I'm a
7,
parent.
huh?
Explain it to me like I'm a parent.
Because well, like for our trajectory of a K-5 student experience in school,
Mm-hmm.
we now will have very clear expectations at every grade level to know what is expected by the end of each grade level and how it builds to the next grade level, so that teachers and parents will know what students are learning, and that we're ensuring that by the end of 2nd grade, they are ready for 3rd grade as foundation to be a skilled reader. And in 3rd through 4, they are deepening that understanding in application as they become more skilled readers, as in comprehension and fluency,
Okay, cool.
something like that.
Great. I can also clean up all this language to make sure it's like complete
So
sentences and all the cute stuff, but just want the ideas from y'all. Go ahead, Tammy.
should I get rid of that first one then? Is that too specific?
Um, I like the piece where we talked about combining, if that works for
Okay.
folks. I think that's helpful to
Okay.
like, in some cases, I mean, think about it from the perspective of the SRC, right? Some of them are going to be educators potentially, but some of them are also going to be members of the public. And I think, yeah, clear expectations would probably translate well, like eliminating redundancies, like, you know,
Okay.
I think all that
Um,
makes sense.
I did mention in the writing that standards 1, 2, and 3 have been reordered to more clearly delineate the progression of skills, and that was K through 12, correct? I'm pretty sure we did
Yes.
that across the board.
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, I think
And then we've got the elective standards that were paired with connecting standards to ELA.
Did we put anything around um the alignment of the standards to our science social studies?
I think I have that under foundational.
Okay, that should go with the reading.
Maybe it is under reading. I remember typing it.
Okay.
let me find it.
And that's an equity move.
I think we need to add it. You said add it under reading?
Yeah, reading.
Yeah,
Oh, standard RIRKI 9 has been rewritten to allow for and to encourage cross-curricular integration. I need to actually put that
I
was in
think we
K
need
through
to
5.
put specifically aligned to our science and social studies standards. And that's an equity move around background knowledge.
And I need to probably put that as K through 5, right?
Yes.
All right, gotcha. I'll take care of that at the beginning part.
And
Okay,
I
cool.
think it would be important to point out that it's an equity move as well.
Um,
Like amongst subjects, right?
And
Yes.
students for their
No, and students'
background.
background knowledge,
So
Okay.
because background knowledge is a key component for comprehension.
and in the assessment, if they're looking at the standards to create our assessments, our kids don't get a fair shot if they can choose any topic when we know that the research says background knowledge plays such a vital role in their reading and understanding.
Perfect.
Okay. Is that better?
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. Any other things like organization structure or any feedback on what Tammy has? Thank you for doing this, Tammy. This is gorgeous.
What about Rachel? Something around that motivational piece.
Mm.
I don't
That was a
remember
big
typing
topic
anything.
for us.
Are you talking about
When we were, was that for the writing
It
and
was for
the reading?
and writing.
Would it go in the writing and reading section?
I think so.
with that, we may have to reword how I have it written. But in reading, I've got one that talks about standard RL RTTC 10 has been rewritten to place an emphasis on the inclusion of student choice and providing the opportunity to read text in its entirety. Is that what you're talking about for motivation?
Uh-huh.
Okay, which would enhance motivation?
That sounds great. So we just need the accompanying for writing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do not have it in writing, I don't think.
Yeah.
That's okay. This is great. Yeah, and these categories were just to get y'all thinking, so I wasn't just like, so what did we change about the standards? I'm not married to any of these categories.
I just didn't want us to have to start from a blank document.
Perfect. Okay. The writing standard,
Uh, I don't know what to say there.
y'all please jump in. I'm just workshopping.
Is that the writing standard that's like to write in different modes to cover mode? Like we wanted them to write in different types of writing.
I think so.
So where did we land? Do we need to say something? Did we land differently in middle school?
For which portion?
Or writing? Did
Uh,
we land where we were? Because I remember the conversation where we talked about elementary being building the foundation,
Mm-hmm.
and then middle school going in and being more specific and really diving in and developing a certain genre, and then high school coming back and like, I don't know, I can't remember the wording we used for that one, but did we end up doing that?
like adding sophistication or exploring deeper,
Uh-huh.
something like that at the high school level, but like that.
We were more specific in 6-8,
Yeah,
but
Courtney and Meredith, I mean, not Courtney and Meredith, Courtney and Nicole,
Nicole,
isn't it something about you focus on one for the essay, but you write multiple
yeah,
paragraph things in the others? Isn't that how we went?
somebody,
Essentially, we went with our original thought process, but we changed some terminology that didn't structure it to be like as short necessarily.
somebody
Or
said it so
stuff.
beautifully though when we met. It was
I agree.
it was elementary is building the foundation or setting the foundation. Middle school is developing someone, and then high school is
Like me, even middle school was doing
Nicole's
something
typing.
Down on
Maybe
a
she's
post-it
got it.
note.
where it was like
Nicole's typing.
intentionality for the for the for the deeper
It was
dive.
so well said, and it made such sense for it to be that way. and I can't remember how it was said.
Was
I
it
might have
college
wrote
and career stuff for 912? Maybe?
When we're expanding on it,
Um,
yes, you can say for
dive
us college and career
deeper.
readiness.
Yeah.
Y'all please jump in. I'm just gonna type what
It's
we.
in my notes somewhere.
Okay.
I'll find it
But that, I mean, that looks good.
because I liked the way we said it because I thought it made sense to explain it that way so it didn't sound disconnected. Like it was an intentional move.
Totally. Okay. Let's jump up. Anything else on organization structure? I mean, I think y'all made so far some pretty big edits to the appendix and the intro. Is there anything you want to say there? Or I guess we can, is there, we can add a specific one. Oh, we've got appendix. Okay, what do we want to say about the appendix in terms of edits?
Well, apparently for the appendix, we want more charts and less words. And in a nicer way, we could say making it more applicable, reader friendly or user friendly, something like that, perhaps. Because I think those are the reasons that we were saying take out a lot of the words and put in charts and graphs and things that teachers will actually
Shows up.
use.
Gorgeous.
You could also say making resources more accessible.
Yes,
it.
that's
Because
it.
there are a couple of them that are specifically for that, and clarity with some of the specific skills like roots and affixes. Because I know
Common
that's been
language.
discussed, foundational skills, yeah, all of that.
For the appendix, we also updated some of the information. So areas that we don't need anymore or use anymore, we just updated it literally because they needed to be updated.
I'm just working off the cuff here.
Yeah, no worries. We're just throwing it out there so that it's in there. We can make it sound nice later.
Okay, gorgeous. I'll stop me at any point if we have thoughts. Okay. Um, anything folks want to say in their grade level specifically? Like what's something that's unique about your grade band that doesn't apply to the other grade bands, if anything?
Does this go with our electives too, or is there a little section for electives that I missed?
We have electives.
Okay.
I would say that 6-8 added more of a focus on like the structures of sentences in the grammar and language section. Sorry for my child.
Okay.
Don't
It's
About
apologize.
5.
We're good.
I'm sorry. But we did in the language standards simplify it and make it like more focused on the structure of sentences so that that would hopefully flow over into their writing in a way that I think will really be beneficial and effective there.
Love that. Because that also goes across writing and language and sort of connects the dots.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't just K5, but I know I looked back to see, but establishing that length criteria for writing.
Beautiful. So that's K5 and 6-8? Or
I think I saw it in 6-8. I didn't go past.
6-8 was just much more specific about like what needs to be implemented in each type. So even the way we organized our
So,
standards is like the
specificity?
specific things. Sorry, what?
I was like specificity. I know that sounds like that would be
Like-
what we're talking about. I was like, but it's hard to say for whoever is going to present on this. They're like, I'm not saying specificity.
I got you. I'd have to spell that like 5 times to make sure I got it right.
But I
Okay,
know
cool.
ours in K5 didn't have any guidance on that.
Okay.
And that's
But y'all
always,
added it?
we did. Hmm.
Okay, gorgeous. So I'll probably move that to writing since it's a writing specific one, but I love that one. Okay.
In language, you said 6 to 8 focuses more on sentence structure. Is that right?
Yeah, more just the elements of like varying sentence types, sentence structure, things like that.
Okay. Tammy, you want to walk us through your speaking and listening? This looks great.
Let me get back to it. Speaking and listening. I just talked about the current SLCC 2 and 3, where we combined that to make a new standard, and then we created SLCC 3, a new one that focuses on listening and note taking, since those skills are needed for post secondary learning in college and career, and it also provides an opportunity to build note taking skills in general. And then on standard 5, we reworded it to address the use of multimedia components, not really to make them an option, but to make them an expectation.
Cool. Any thoughts or feedback on speaking and listening? What did we forget?
Speaking and listening, was there one where we changed the cornerstone?
I think that was
Because it might have been for
I think that was
where are they supposed to speak in we made it academic language instead of I know we did that with writing, I
We
think,
did.
but like or
We did.
present. Yeah, I was like, but did we do it in speaking and listening too, where they have to speak? Isn't
Up
there
I
under
thought
the
we did do something around using academic language.
in
we
speaking and
did
listening as well?
across the board. And up under organization and structure, I have a terminology one that says we move from the use of formal English to academic English for
Okay.
clarity and consistency.
Okay.
Do we need to put it under each section also?
I don't know. I guess that's for y'all to present on, and then I think I just feel I can't remember it. I can't remember exactly where we put it, but I know one of them we had to literally change like maybe the cornerstone or even what the standard was called because it was like it had it had formal English in there, and then we were like, nope, we're changed. Oh, that was in language where we changed it from formal English to academic English. Sorry.
Yeah, I think we had to change it in a lot of places.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I know y'all changed flower power, right? And didn't we mourn the loss of flower power? That's my very detailed understanding of what y'all are talking about. Okay. Writing. Tim, you want to walk us through this briefly?
K5 and 6-8 increase specificity. Yeah, there's a word. Clarity on writing length. Types of writing rearranged to more accurately address the progression of writing skills. Standard 4 was removed to eliminate redundancy, and then the current 5 and 6 combined to make a new 4. 7 through 9 combined to form a new 5, and then current standard 10 became the new number 6. So it reduces the number of standards in that strand. Standards have been rewritten to place an emphasis on the inclusion of student choice and provide the opportunity to enhance student motivation. K through 5 is more setting the foundation. 6 through 8 is diving deeper. And then 9-12 is preparing for college and career. And then we have the 6 through 8 place a greater focus on one type of writing in each grade level while still covering the other writing types. Big
Okay.
sick.
Thoughts, feedback? Yeah.
Okay, on speaking and listening, did we put, I thought it might be nice to include about the standard that we added for speaking and listening, which
we-
is, did we do that? I'm
Yeah.
sorry if we did. Okay,
That's-
sorry. Where
No,
is
that's good.
this?
This is linked. Great question,
Where
Meredith.
is it?
This is linked on your member agenda, and it's
Okay.
also in the SDC folder under final documents, I believe. Hold on.
Thanks. I was trying to keep up with it on the screen and I was like, okay, that's not working.
Yeah. No, and y'all feel free to jump in. I'm just trying to record what you're saying.
Final
So
documents. Got it. Okay, found it. Thanks.
See if that's the one you're talking about.
Let's see. Speaking and listening.
It'd be the second dot under speaking and listening.
Yes, I think it confused me because that's not, I think it was just, I was honing in on the number. And so,
Okay.
totally fine.
it's almost like it's 6:12 p.m. or 7:12 p.m. for some of my friends.
Yes, back from a snow day.
Yeah.
Mhm. Also, should have said this, but y'all feel free to eat, do what you need to do, all the things. Go to the potty. Okay.
Okay, thanks. Sorry.
That's fine. Are we good with speaking and listening and writing?
Mhm.
Looks good.
I have no ties to this. We can fix it and we can trash it off.
I
Whatever.
think it's fantastic.
Yep.
I had
Um,
a I had a quick question, Tammy. When you say current standard 4 is reduced for redundancy, would you say, and you totally tell me no, would you say that that was sort of the logic behind a lot of this? Would that
yeah,
apply to multiple ones?
it actually does. The only reason I
Okay,
wrote it
cool.
out separately each time, we could put redundancy. I didn't put that on all of them.
No, that's perfect. I can combine those so it's just like,
Yeah,
that's great.
it's
I
just
love
one of
that.
the things where I didn't know if I should combine them all together or leave them separated so I could refer to what the new standard would be in case someone went looking.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I'm happy to clean this document up because y'all are busy doing your things. I can put them in like a EGIE kind of situation.
Okay.
So we have them all because I do like the specificity that you have, if that's cool. And I think people will appreciate it, like, oh, again, we're gonna have some stakeholders who are worried about the number of standards, right? 6-8 did a great job sort of pointing that out in the feedback, and they'll probably want to go to the survey and be like, oh yes, love that, thank you. Whatever.
Are we ready for reading? Yes.
Yes.
um, the one I started out with in reading was where we tried to differentiate RL and RI4 from LVAU4, and the cornerstone and standard had been rewarded to focus on the impact of word choice rather than just a definition. So I wanted to point that out. K5, you might want to look at a couple things that I wrote about yours. I think Brianna's already cleaned up one of them, put the science and social studies standards in for me. I saw that you switched under RLCS6, you switched grade level 4 and 5 standards, and I think the comment you made was developmental appropriateness.
Is that right, K5? Jump in.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So if you want to change any of it, just please feel free. I usually misspell the word "these," so I'm kind of constantly checking to make sure I didn't.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I'll send it through. Okay. I see a lot of K5 stuff, which is good. Any 6-8 or 9-12 things that folks need to know about reading? I feel like I was in your room 6-8. Was there a lot on reading? I felt like it was pretty straightforward.
I do too, and I'm trying to look back at our spreadsheet right now because I love a spreadsheet. Um, so I'll get back with you if I found something just for to register.
And
No,
I
that's
was,
perfect. Yeah.
and I didn't think we went too far down a limb on ours and made any really huge changes.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I remember us being very specific about reading a text to its entirety and the importance
Yeah.
of that.
So
And
10
then,
spent a lot of time with.
yeah. And you've already differentiated. The other one we had to differentiate. That one was one that was a really big one for us too. And we barely tweaked the other ones.
Okay.
The change with point of view and perspective, that
Mm,
was kind
Yeah.
of big for us.
Okay.
You got it?
I got you.
The only way I remembered it was the glossary.
You think we'd
Can you
remember?
tell me more?
Point of view is different from author's perspective, clearly defined. Point of view goes with the literary turn, like the literary point of view, where there are three different major points of view, and then the author's perspective is the other one.
You could do like
And
a
this was based on feedback, right?
yeah.
Yes,
Oh, sorry.
based on feedback. It was confusing, and they were used interchangeably in areas that they probably maybe shouldn't have been used interchangeably.
It was confusing students on everything.
There was also a clarification between theme and central idea.
Oh, yeah.
Love that.
Boom.
That was
Yeah,
Which
and
one
good.
is
we were,
that?
yeah, you're right.
Which strand is that? I was reading.
Oh, our kid
Yeah,
too.
that's
Our
yeah.
kid too
Okay,
is central idea and
gorgeous.
theme.
That's a good one, Courtney.
Thanks.
I think we might
That
have
was also a big
really
feedback.
worked on the summary as well. Do you guys remember when we were working on summary and what summary needed to be, or key details, or did we end
I
up
tried to
changing
forget
that one?
actually.
You try to forget it, my bad. Well, anyway, that's our
Just
kid
that
too
one.
as well. I was like,
We
that's
we
also
went
our
round
kid
and round with
too.
that one.
So
That's funny.
Yeah. I mean, it's valid, but
I was like,
Yeah, I think the big change there was separating summary from central idea, because they kept putting that in the same standard, and we were like, that's not the same thing. So we kept trying to separate the summary from the central idea.
It's coming back to me. I'm remembering a board that Karen wrote on. Okay, gorgeous.
6.8 also added a lot of specificity to like figurative language, and so we made it like progressively appropriate so that they're adding more each year instead of just opening it wide open each year. Hey, do figurative language. We were much more specific about which types and built on that.
Mhm. Which, if I remember, was also a big feedback. Like, don't just put the same standard K-12.
Yeah, and it was also listed in the language standards. So we changed it. I think that was not just 6.8, but we changed it essentially so that it wasn't listed in both places.
So
But
remove from language and added to reading, maybe?
I think so, and I can go back and look at language right now and see kind of exactly what we did.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Oh,
If you want to move on, I can come back to it when I find it. I'm struggling.
All good. Okay. Any other thoughts on reading? Foundational literacy. I feel like we can just copy and paste what you had in your slides, Leanne. Where are those? Mm. Oop.
Yep.
Gorgeous.
Perfect.
Done. Any other things, K5?
Add in that phonological awareness standard for second grade. And there was something with print concepts too.
Why did we do that? The phonological awareness for second grade?
Just the need for continuation.
Great. Okay, and then what was your second one?
Rachel, it was print concepts.
Yeah, what was first garden?
I think
Uh,
it was.
Put we made first grades print content more appropriate for first grade.
I don't know if it's just me, but Rachel, you were cutting up. I got print concepts in first grade more appropriate. I'm assuming y'all just like re-leveled.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were only kindergarten first before, and we left them in kindergarten first. We just changed them a little bit.
Got it. So added to first grade.
It was something about more advanced.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use the hated word. I'm sorry.
I don't know. That's correct.
Well, you can say we used it once.
Okay. Language. I feel like Courtney, you had good thoughts on language, but I think we covered it in reading, right? Is there any other? Tammy, do you want to walk us through these language ones? These are good.
We agreed to remove standard VAU 3, and I'm pretty sure it's because it was already being addressed. And then, because of that, the standard VAU 4, which became 3 in the new version, has been reworded so that it focuses just on the meaning of the words and doesn't have quite as much tie-in with RL. Does reworded for clarity, I guess. More distinction, yeah.
You said reading.
Yes, it was RL4, but I'm not sure. I think it may still be RL4. You go back up and look. Yes, RL and RI4.
Okay, cool. What other language thoughts do we have? I feel like.
Did you find what you were looking for, Courtney?
Not specifically. Not in a way that I liked.
Okay. So you have
So
nothing to
I
add
just
right
left it
now.
be. Yeah, I just left it be. But I will say
Okay.
that 6A, I think, in multiple places did a really good job at intentionally showing a progression. So instead of just, throwing a skill out there that's kind of vague, we were like, okay, so what do we want them to do in sixth? What about seventh? What about eighth? And making sure that grew each time, whether it was with sentence types or it was, with clauses, or if it was the semicolon and the colon and the dashes, and just making it intentionally progress. And that wasn't there previously, I don't feel like. I feel like it was really sporadic and random.
Right. And they were like pretty similar across grade levels, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where that chart's going to become very helpful. Anything else for language? Okay. Meredith, what do you want to say about your glossary?
I already looked at it. I think we should include the fact that we added academic conversation because that progresses K-12 and kind of gives guidance to like what those conversations should be like in our classrooms. And then academic dishonesty, I think would be a big one. Just because of like that provides the opportunity for talks about like ethical use of technology. I just think that's very needed as we become even more just how our society uses technology as it does. um and then as far as like the words added for K5, a lot of those came from like the science of reading and foundational literacy. Like for instance, I think it was automaticity. Let's see, automaticity. There were several I saw. I don't have them handy, but I think that is what caused us to need a lot of the changes that we did at the K5 level was science of reading, foundational literacy. And I don't know if there was like an overall something that made change for 6th or 8th or 9th or 12, but I think that's the biggest changes that haven't already been discussed, like because of a standards change.
Well, you did mention at the top about the focusing on what's actually in the standard so that it's
Yeah,
more
yeah,
accessible for teachers. I think that could apply here.
yes. And that we want this to be a tool that they feel like helps with clarity of the standards if it's needed. Oh, one word we added, fluency. Definitely. Foundational literacy word.
I feel like I need something else there. Meredith, see if I got what you said. See if I captured it good.
Looks stellar to me.
I feel like there's something else is needed in that glossary one.
Is there something that really made you all like needs a change for your glossary?
I thought it was kind of cool how you told us what we added, how many words we added to the
Oh,
glossary, and you know how you broke that
that'll
down
be
for us.
neat
I
to
thought
put
that was
on there.
cute.
Yes, Meredith McMackin's data analyst.
Yes, girl. Please don't sell
Get it,
yourself
girl.
short.
Because you know there's going to be a slide in that SRC presentation with those exact words.
I can't wait. Can't wait to see it. I'm glad
And,
that they were all 2-digit numbers. Let me just say that.
ah! Here, I can copy and paste it. I've got the slides open. Where is it? Oh, Leticia's there.
Oh, you know what? Let me go back through and make sure, since we're going to change these words, I might need to send that to you. Because
Okay.
with these changes that we make after today's meeting, it may change those numbers.
Right. Meredith's got to run the numbers again, y'all.
Gotta run the numbers again.
All right, data girl, go on now.
Yeah, you feel free.
Let me recount. I'm gonna use it in a different meaning.
Oh.
That was great.
I cannot see any of you all. I haven't been able to for since 20 minutes in, so I don't know what I'm doing over
You're not
here at this
missing
point.
anything. I'm just barely alive over here. Don't worry.
They're very beautiful, I can attest.
Giving you
That
thumbs up.
works, Meredith. You can just add it to the doc when you're ready.
Okay.
I will need this by February 2nd. That's my deadline because we're putting this with the survey.
Okay, so Courtney,
Mhm.
for the appendix, it just says more charts to more applicable, accessible, and user friendly, updated based on latest research and instructional practices. Anything else you want to add?
I mean, if you want more bullet points, you could probably put like what we're adding that we want to be accessible. I mean, not that we're trying to get a bullet point count, but mine looks sad and everybody else's is pretty. So
We're just starting. It's okay.
it's fine.
We could talk about the
specifically,
new one, Meredith and Leanne's new one.
mhm.
Okay. So what are we calling that one?
I don't know. I feel like that's a K5 one.
Yeah.
Back to the basics. Foundational Literacy 101.
Wow.
So what you want to do? Let's go with that.
Totally kidding.
I think just
I'm typing.
yeah.
It will be a placeholder till we get something better.
There you go.
I will even highlight it. So it is a placeholder. So anything else you think we need to specifically mention?
Not necessarily. I mean, I feel like we got rid of things that weren't needed, that were kind of outdated.
What about the
But
grammar chart? The grammar progression.
well, and that's why, like, with the more charts, like, I think that's like the grammar progression, the roots and affixes progression charts. Um, so specifically progression charts for grammar and roots and affixes.
Mm-hmm. Stop me, but I feel like you said something about like supporting new teachers or something, something.
Yes. Well, and we tried to, that for sure, both of those would help support. I mean, I think all teachers, not even just new ones. Um, but when we talked about, I know they're like TBD, but adding in all of these different resources that are out there, so that they're linked in with the standards, like the standards guides and the writing rubrics whenever they are ready.
Oh, that's a great point. Like cross-referencing, like working across, like
Yeah,
something, something.
yeah. I mean, I think that one in itself is huge. Um, just because as a new teacher, you're walking in and you're like, wait, where do I find that? And where's this at? And if it's all in one place, that just
Yeah.
seems like it would be more user friendly.
Oh, remember those days.
Mm.
And grammar can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
I
In
know
itself.
it seems simple because of what you're teaching, but it's just the like quantity of it. It's a lot.
Yeah.
You're like, where do I start?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I think you're good.
Okay. So I have 5 listed now. If you see anything else, I got the foundational literacy, back to the basics, grammar progression, roots and affixes, suffixes, progression, standards guides, writing, the writing rubrics. Alright, so the next one's electives. And I didn't go into all of them.
Totally fair.
What I wrote about Bible was the Bible as literature standards were written with a focus on teaching the Bible as a literature class while addressing its influence on culture, literature, etc. The changes to the standard address the requirements of the law, which dictates that the class should not be taught in a devotional manner. Cohesive language with other ELA standards was used.
Mm-hmm. I think the only other thing that we might have done is just update some of the language.
Okay?
Yeah.
Right.
But that
Oh,
was I was like to the Bible, but then also to several of the electives we did that where we updated any kind
Yeah.
of thing, like stuff that we just don't use anymore. I mean, it was in there like research this on a computer. I was like, oh my God.
If it's available.
I was like, oh my God, we're
If
not
it's
going to use that.
available. Yeah, I mentioned that in creative writing and in journalism that we updated the language to make it more clearly aligned. Now, under etymology, I said the language and the standards was updated to more clearly align with proposed standards. And in addition, the standards were clearly delineated between etymology and linguistics, with each section written to mimic the style of ELA standards.
That's good because that's where we're making our biggest
Yeah,
changes when we came together. Yeah.
they seem to be the ones that we spent the most time on.
I think the one thing we might have done for was it creative writing? Or was it the genre studies? We added this big ginormous list.
We did add some lists for both
genre
of those.
literature.
The
Yeah.
genre had the most.
And we were so specific about adding those lists because we're doing it for the purpose of motivation, diversity.
Mhm.
So if we could capture that.
I think
Or
we
put it
had
in
a
whatever
list in
language to
mythology
make it.
too.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it was mythology instead of creative.
What does that look like, Leticia?
Yeah, that looks good. Cause yeah, that's what we were doing. That's good.
What do I say there?
I can add mythology.
Okay. I was
So
trying to
think,
say
yeah,
how I
y'all.
wanted to phrase it. And then the only thing we have left is the other category.
Which we do not need. I just didn't want to limit us emotionally.
Okay. Good, because I
You
was
know,
so
I know
blank.
I know you have dying burning thoughts at, 6:38 or 7:38. Okay. Anything else you want to make sure we covered, Tammy?
I think that's it for me.
Okay, cool. Going once, going twice. Goodbye, Heather. Okay, so I can clean this up. Again, if y'all have thoughts, I'll need to know in the next 2 weeks or so. So feel free to add, delete, revise, whatever. But yeah, I'll just get this cleaned up and pushed out for public use. But it'll be attached to the survey so folks know what they're looking for. And then hopefully, again, Leanne, Tammy, Nicole, this is a useful document for y'all when you need to reach back into your memory in November 2025. Okay. I'll share. I was trying to keep up with all the action steps, and I'm positive I forgot something, including my own. But I have, again, I'll push out the survey to everyone. Tell your friends, tell your family, have folks fill it out, all the good things. I think Catherine and I set our goal to be over 15,000 responses, so we can get some good feedback for SRC. For K5, I had add revised foundational literacy standards to spreadsheet. Have we already had a chance to do that or no? What you presented to today.
Okay, so when I put that into obviously, I have no idea how that would go into the spreadsheet. So I just linked it. I just put the link to it.
Are you talking about the appendix or the actual standards?
No, I was talking, oh, sorry, I was talking about the actual I thought you were talking about the standards that Leanne
No, you're right.
presented on. But that was something that I'm talking about when you visually see the decoding and encoding side by side. I just put that as a link in the spreadsheet.
Oh, that's perfect.
I put C Google Doc for proposed standard changes and for formatting purposes. And then we have a rationale for it too.
Okay, that works
And
great.
I will go back on and add that coding that Rachel brought up for the DAB and the EAB or whatever.
That would be great. And
Okay.
then yeah, and then I should be able to, like, once it's changed, it would be there. So the link wouldn't have to be changed. Leanne, if you'll let me know when you do that.
I sure will.
Thank
Okay.
you.
And I would say over the changes, this is probably our top priority because again, I've got that deadline for the first week of February to get everything to the survey. So if it's on the survey, it's kind of an ASAP situation. If it's not on the survey, we've got some wiggle room.
Okay, so anything that has to go on the survey is priority by what was the February?
So that's my
February
deadline
2nd?
to get everything inputted. So I would need it a couple of days in advance. But I think the only things that I know of that are on the survey that are relevant are these standards and the course descriptions, which I think we're good, Leticia. So I think those would be if I could get those, let me look at my calendar.
I was like, literally, I was about to highlight it if it had my name next to it. Like, get this by this day, and like put in a reminder in my phone. Like,
I
that's what I was
appreciate
about
you.
to do.
Okay, so could we say, Lee and I would just need that by like maybe the 27th.
Okay.
Does that work?
Yep, I'm gonna do it tonight.
Oh,
I will not.
Okay, if you
Right, we
insist.
can't look at these anymore. We're
That's
there.
fair. That's fair.
We're there.
I want to be flexible, but if we want to say goodbye, I get it. I really get it.
It's not y'all. I like looking at y'all. It's the standard.
That's fair. Okay.
Actually, go ahead and tell us this is a spreadsheet.
It really is. It's these Google Docs in the spreadsheet. I'm always confused.
Right. Okay, cool. Next I have for K5 and 6-8. I didn't think this applied to 9-12, but 9-12, you please jump in. I have, if you have any drafted appendix content, it needs to go in this document. If you have any suggestions for appendix content, it needs to go in the feedback list. Any questions, comments, concerns there?
I think the thing for the appendix is we just wanted the
writing
grammar,
rubrics.
the writing rubrics, and then the grammar stuff that
Grammar
basically kind of
progression, yeah.
stops in high school to actually progress into high school.
Okay. So is that
But
a TDOE request or something y'all
yeah,
are
we had
drafting?
requested that. We had requested that for TDOE.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. I'll add you to the list. I did have your note about PLC below. Thank you
Yes,
for doing that.
I'll be
Okay,
searching
cool.
that.
Okay, then next I have Karen, Rachel, we already talked about this, but yeah, just get your references somehow to Leticia or your resources and then adding your content to these documents so we can see the track changes. Okay.
Meredith, do you
For
remember where that document is with that standard that I changed? Is it? Oh, but it's an EAT.
That side by side one,
Yeah,
the visual one, yeah, it is in there. Let me find it.
the EAT.
I'm pretty positive. Wait a minute. You know what? We all had that as a. Okay, sorry. Y'all keep going. I'm gonna look. It might take a minute.
okay, cool. Next I had Karen and Rachel need y'all to review and revise your grade specific sections in the intro. So if it says K5 next to it, K5, please take a look, et cetera, et cetera. And in some cases we might need to draft something, it sounds like. So, and again, if it's directed at your grade band, my ask is that y'all spread it evenly across your members. I don't want to micromanage until, all the way down to the bullet point, but the ask here is, maybe, one member leads on one piece, one member leads on another piece, or however y'all want to divide it, but just divide it evenly as possible. Any questions on that?
Okay, for this one right here, the intro, that one would be, is that the one that you would need by by January 27th?
No, the only thing I need here, I'll just put it. The only thing I really need is this thing from Leanne, basically.
Okay. Yes, help
'Cause if
me out
it's
and do. I was like, help me out and do things like that because that's how scattered I am. I'm like, I get confused really quickly. So I'm like, what? What did
Hey,
I have to do?
Leanne, it's Final New Foundational Literacy Standard 3. If you just search for it at the
Okay.
top.
Final.
Final New Foundational Literacy Standard 3. I had to
Thank
keep
you.
looking to find the final one.
Okay. Yeah.
Not fine.
Okay, next I have 6-8 add revise appendix. I think this is already covered up here. Does anyone know what I meant by that by chance or?
Okay, so I'm just wondering, is that the note about what Karen talked about with something that we're supposed to have done that one, like, I think she said 9 through 12 had done it? It was something that we're supposed to
Yeah.
add to,
So
no, it was
Yeah, at the bottom of the strand introductions.
bottom of stranded. Okay.
So we have the strand introductions, and we have the top where we introduce it, and then we have the cornerstones. Then underneath those, we were setting up a kind of a map, I guess, like how
Or stair steps.
the stair steps, yes. So if you look at the document that's under collaboration, it's in the leadership folder under collaboration. Each one of those strands at the bottom of that document, there's, I don't know. My brain
I'm
is
open it.
so much
I'm
more.
trying to open it.
Okay.
If my computer will work. Hold on.
I think my Walmart delivery guy is trying to call me. So while you're doing that,
Okay. Is this right? Basically, this is probably the most basic one because it's
hello.
the overall introduction. But just if this has your grade band on it, you check it and make sure that's what you want it to say, is my understanding of the action step.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure this applies. Rachel, does this also apply to your sections? And is it also in this document? No, it doesn't look like. Right.
I'll double check with Karen, but I think we have the intro and the cornerstones, and then making connections, I think is what that's referring to.
Okay, sorry. No,
Okay, but
if you go to the bottom of the strand, not the big intro, but the strands intro, like one of the strands, anyone, pick one. Anyone. Those documents at the bottom, I don't know, y'all might have already worked this out since I was on the phone. But he didn't know where to put my groceries. I was like, dude, just put them in the porch and be done. It's cold. Just drop them. They're going to be fine.
No, we have not found it. The only thing I see is this document that you linked, and I see these, but I don't see the strand specifics. And
Okay.
then I see what's in the slides.
It's in
Is
a
it in the
folder.
slides?
It's in
It's in
the
a folder
folder.
called collaboration.
Yeah, it's under
Okay.
the leadership and then collaboration.
Okay, I'll go find it and add it. I'm also going to send all of this to you via email, so you don't, and I'll clean it up and all that.
Okay, so under
Is that
go ahead, sorry.
Is that something I feel very married to? Like, we have for each section the introduction, and then we have the cornerstone. So then we're going to have connections across grade levels, like a graphic. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, there's a graphic
Yeah.
at the bottom, but here's my question. Now that we step back and we're not in the middle of all of that, with the cornerstones, I mean, do we still want to work on that graphic? I don't know. I'm just going to share this with Brianna so she don't have to look for it.
Thank you.
I felt okay with the introductions and then the cornerstones listed,
Mhm.
and then launch to the standards for each one.
Okay.
But we're wanting to add.
So at the bottom of those documents, I feel like I can't. I'm not explaining myself very well.
Well, I know, because I saw it in your language. You did it. You filled it out for language, and that's why I got a little confused if the cornerstones were the same all the way through. Looking at it, it confused me a little. Now that we had our conversation, I knew what it pertained to, but I'm wondering, will it be translated well to others that weren't in the room?
That's exactly what I was wondering. I think if we knew what we were trying to do, but if we know what we're trying to do, but you who were looking at it and wasn't in the room at the time, if you're looking at it going, well,
yeah, I got a little confused.
What do we want to do?
Are we okay to leave it with the introduction and then the cornerstones and then launch into the standards?
So just to frame the question. The question is whether we want any grade specific content in the strand introductions. Am I understanding the question right or no?
Okay, well, I don't know. I shared a document with you just now, and I know you can't go back and forth because you're on your computer, but there's a document, and we had it on at the bottom of all of them. I think Leanne fixed them for us. And at the bottom of each of them, we had like stair steps of this is what we're doing in K, I think it was K2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And this kind of, we were going to do a highlight, but I think where I quit doing them, I found that I was writing the same thing that everybody was doing it. Like it was just like,
Yeah.
doing it, we're just doing it at a different level.
Yeah.
So if we want, okay, yeah. So if we scroll to the bottom of that little guy right there, these stair steps down here.
Yeah, ended up being the same thing.
They were. It's hard to pull apart exactly how we're doing it differently unless you're in the room having the conversation. And I think we do that already in the standards.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm okay with pulling it out. I remember our conversation and it was a great idea.
Uh-huh.
The reality is it was confusing for somebody who wasn't in the room.
My other issue too is like if we've already said it in a complete, concise way before, if we put it in there, like we're just going to confuse people and we're just trying to make things concise. And I feel like this one we might be, from our feedback, it was like, make it concise, make it concise. And if we start doing this, I don't know, we might not be making it concise.
That's kind of that's kind of how I was feeling when I was trying to do it. That's why I stopped doing them. I think I did the language one and went, you know what? I think I said the same thing that 910 said and 912 said. So what is everybody else's thought on just pulling that bottom piece out of every one of them and just leaving it cornerstone and introduction?
I agree. I think simplify it and take it out. It's causing too much confusion anyways.
I mean, either way is fine with me.
Perfect.
Okay.
I'm good. Nicole said she was good too.
Great.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Okay, so just so I understand, this is no longer an action step that needs to occur, or this still is an action step that needs to occur?
Can't see that. It's so tiny. Is that
Oh,
just,
sorry.
that's okay. It's not your fault that I'm old and blind.
Y'all keep telling me because I keep switching documents. Okay.
Yeah, like the cornerstone one.
Mm-hmm. This part right here that you've got highlighted, I don't think we need to do that anymore.
Gorgeous. Goodbye. Okay.
Done.
And then I think we're covered up here. 6-8, if you want to do if you want to pitch the TDOE request, I can't remember what the appendix is called off the top of my head, but if you want to do any requested content, I think that's what that was, but y'all stop me if it was something else. Okay. Here's my little to-do list for everyone, and y'all let me know what I forgot. I'm going to check Courtney's speaker notes and add anything. I'm going to share requests with TDOE once we've got our deadline, our stop date, send all the wishes upstairs. I made a specific note about the writing rubrics and standards guides. So I'll just have to think of some language because I need to check with TDOE to make sure. I assume we're going to have writing rubrics, but I want to double check that they want to move forward with standards guides before I say that insert standards guides here. I'm going to send y'all the Bible standards to double check that it's Arkansas. That's just 912 specific. And then I'm going to look up Magic School AI, and if not, send you the list or try and come up with something. Or Leticia, I'm happy to help. What else should I do to be helpful to my most favorite ladies in the whole world?
I just had a question since I'm doing the appendix and I said that I'll wait for other people to put in their stuff. When can I just expect for the stuff, not the appendix, excuse me, the reference, the cited reference thing? When can I expect for those things to just be added in the final document so then I can actually run the final document and start checking for those citations?
Good question. So I wanted to go through all of this before we set deadlines, just so folks felt like they had the full scope of the work. But I think that's a perfect next question. Okay, the last thing I just had is a reminder for vice chairs. Again, Meredith, you did a great job with the glossary of getting to some decisions for some open comments, just recording those for whichever section is relevant for you. And then again, feel free to loop me or any relevant member. So Meredith, if you have an outstanding question from 912, feel free to email me and 912 and we'll get it sorted, or 6-8 or whoever. Does that make sense? So
Yes. There's not a document for me to record that on. I just need to.
just your glossary. This same
Okay.
one as always, the SDC
Okay.
edits.
Got it. I'll
just
just
mean
leave
if-
them as comments.
Exactly.
Got it.
Okay. Speaking of Leticia's question, okay. So what do we feel? I'm going to zoom out just a hot second so we can see the scope of our fun that we need to do. Okay. Like I said, thank you, Leanne. You're amazing. This is the thing I need urgently. Everything else is moderately urgently. Not the end of the world. We certainly need all of this before SRC, because SRC could, make an addition to the intro, or, make some of the charts y'all are looking for, or, what have you. First, let's start off. So Leticia makes a good point. There's some things that folks need to get done their things. Is there anything other than the references where somebody on this to-do list needs something from somebody before they can move on? Okay. So for Karen and Rachel, it sounds like that might be the main impact. Does the 27th work for y'all to get things to Leticia?
I can get them. I can upload it right now. My question then was to Leticia. Do you want me to just put it on the running document, or do you want me to create a document and send it to you directly? I can't hear you, babe.
Can't hear you.
There you go.
It would be helpful if I would do my microphone. Sorry. It would be helpful for me that wherever, because I am on the struggle bus with the amount of folders we have and the Google Sheets that I have to open up. It is a sad part of my brain, but my brain is like looking at all these things and they all look the same. So anything that's in the final folder, like these are the final documents folder. So like if you add those things to the final document that I need to be putting the references on, that would just help me out, because then I'll go in there, I'll organize them. Like, you don't have to organize them, just stick them in there on the page for the references, and I'll organize them and I'll do all that other stuff. I just need all that stuff in there so then I can also do the thorough check for the entire document to make sure that our citations match what's in there, or whatever's been taken out needs to be removed, that kind of stuff. But just stick it in there so I can have it in that one document. It would help me if I just didn't have to search 5 documents, because that's
Absolutely.
probably like my biggest pet peeve or something. I don't know what's wrong with my brain, but you can literally ask Tammy and Meredith. I was like confused for, I don't know, a solid hour before they had to take pictures, and they were like, "We're here." I was like, "Okay, thank you."
Okay, so you want me, like where it says references, I'm gonna put at the bottom, I'm gonna put new intro, and I'm gonna put my references, and that's what, and you want me color code them or anything, or just leave it like that?
Color code's fine with me too, because that helps me identify it.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay. Rachel, Karen, does that feel feasible
I'm doing it
for
right
the
now.
27th?
Yes.
Okay, gorgeous. Everything else, there's kind of 2 paths we can do. We can, rip the Band-Aid off and get this over with so y'all can move on with your lives. Or if we need some more flexibility getting the school year started, what deadline feels feasible for everything else?
It looks like Rachel has added the coding already on this document. I do wonder, Rachel, do we need to add FL in front of the D and E just to keep it consistent with the other foundational literacy standards? Or is that way too many?
Yeah, I'm just trying to make it consistent with like what it looks like in any of the other standards. So maybe we look at that and just make sure.
Yeah, I was just thinking maybe 5.FLE.
Yeah, take out the DEE, or that was a little redundant.
Yeah, take out the DE. I mean,
Do either D or E, right?
yeah, I think so. What do you think?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I was just comparing it to, the only real reference I have is, our reading literature and reading informational or side by side like that.
Right.
And they just
Mhm.
have RI. So just code it like
RIRL. Yeah. I'm just thinking all of our other foundational literacy all have the grade and then FL.
okay.
Yes.
So
We
yeah,
definitely need that.
Yeah.
do it consistent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
think there's a note on the standards, and it's like, do the grade, do the strand, do the
Yeah.
this, there's like a little, it's on
yeah.
page
And
3
I
or
don't
4.
have access to edit. Can you change that, or
Let me make
Yes.
it open for
Okay.
everyone. Sounds good. Yeah, I'll do that.
okay, thanks.
Okay. So it sounds like we're almost done with this one. Thank you, Leanne. You just let me know when we're good here.
Yeah. It should be, as soon as she does that, it should be linked and good.
Appreciate you.
Because
Okay.
what, Meredith, you have this one already linked, right?
Yes.
So
Well,
it's
I'll
live.
go in.
So
I'm gonna go click on and make sure. I'm gonna go see what it is and make
Okay.
sure that's the final one.
yeah.
Because now it's
So-
making me question it.
So that once she has this one linked, you'll be good to go.
Perfect. Okay. What feels feasible for everybody else? I mean, it seems like the big buckets are, seems like most of it's appendix related, which again is not like, if your group is proposing a new appendix, then if you want it to make it, your group needs to go propose it, right? Courtney's doing cleanup, of course. But I'm gonna need somebody to throw out a date. Do we want to get it done by the end of January so we can move on with our lives? Do we want to?
I vote end of January.
Yes. I second that.
Yes.
Okay. Hearing no objections. I feel like now we're holding legislature court here. Okay. Okay. Um, does anyone have, did I miss any action steps that people need to do? Oh, I missed one for me. Clean up.
When we
Major
do
summary
the
document.
when we do the appendix stuff, do we have to get on another Zoom and go through it like this?
No.
Okay.
Unless somebody wants to hang out with me. I'm more than,
I mean,
I'd love to hang out with
again,
you, but you're not required to.
I was just checking so I could. I was like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, let me see what the end of January looks like.
Can do that.
No, you're good. I think at this point, my understanding of the conversation is we were all in agreement of what the appendix like should be. It's just a matter of getting it done, but I could be wrong.
No, that's good with me.
So
Okay.
for clarification, exactly what am I doing in the appendix?
You
Sorry,
are,
I've
if
gotten a
we,
little lost. I know I'm cleaning up anything that anybody adds, but like, and I know I need to link whatever the like TDOE requests are. But other than that, like, is there something else I'm missing that I need to do?
good question. Okay, so for example, like Leticia said she's good to do the PLC image, so she's gonna do that. And so your
She's just gonna
responsibility,
add that in.
exactly. So
Okay.
for example, you know, maybe Leticia will have a chance to do this, but triple checking like if there's a new appendix added, okay, A, B, C, D, E, F, are they all in order? Does everyone have a title? Like just sort of
Mm,
organize and clean up. And then I think
okay.
if your group proposed any appendix that you want to draft,
Right.
or if you're requesting anything to TDOE, just make sure it's
Mhm.
on the feedback list. But I can't think of anything else.
Okay. You just said
What am I
like a big
missing?
ticket item was that, and I was like, I want to make sure I'm not missing anything since that was my section. But my little initials are not on here, so I just wanted to make sure.
Very
So
fair.
I think that all of the track records and everything for the appendix is already done.
Okay, cool. And they have
So
like
like,
explanations and stuff.
yeah.
I mean, I think we
So
did that in December.
yes. So I think like if she goes in and adds that and does it as a suggestion and just leave like a note there that that is the an example of the graphic that could be for that. But I'll go back and just triple check. I just want to make sure I wasn't missing anything because I felt like it was simple in my head.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you asking. And then the same would apply to the foundational literacy. Again, if K5 wants to draft the whole thing and just give me notes, great. If they want to make a request to TDOE, great. Just please make sure it's on the spreadsheet.